following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Call to order the September 24th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'd ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're at item 1.3 on the agenda. It's the adoption of the agenda. We have suggested changes to our agenda for the following items. At the request of the applicant, table items 6.3 and 6.4, which is the rezoning of 15 REZ05 Chapel Hill Road at Lake Drive and its accompanying consistency statement to the October 22nd meeting of the Town Council. So, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the amended agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're now at item 2.1 on our agenda under recognitions, reports, and presentations. And that is a presentation from Hsinchu City, Taiwan, plaque from Mrs. Carmichael. Mrs. Carmichael, are you? There you are.
Mr. Mayor, if you can please come up. As you know, we have a long relationship with Hsinchu in Taiwan, and as a sister city, and we have a special presentation for you here today.
Oh, thank you. Oh, wow. This is beautiful.
And Wei Jin Sheng would like to read a brief presentation.
So before she does, if you can't see this, Hsinchu is known for its glasswork, and this is incredible, beautiful glasswork from Hsinchu City. Oh. Thank you. Oops. Okay.
This is a map of all of Taiwan.
Map of all Taiwan. So when we visit our sister city, we'll know all the places to go.
Know that it is right here.
And the airport's like 30 minutes from Hsinchu City. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, nice.
Very cool. few remarks.
You can read into the microphone, please.
Good evening, everyone. And my name is Huijin Chuang. I'm the liaison to Hsinchu City, and I have the message from the Hsinchu mayor. Now I'm reading it. Dear Mayor Harold Rembrandt Jr., President Barbara Shepard, and the people of the town of Cary, on behalf of Hsinchu City, I'm pleased to extend my warmest greetings to the mayor and all of the people in Cary. Hsinchu City is a multicultural city with a perfect blend of history and high-tech innovation. Hsinchu's Science and Technology Industrial Park has been nicknamed Taiwan's Silicon Valley. And as a result of its booming industry, Hsinchu has the highest income level in Taiwan and is one of the top educational centers in the country. I would like to express my deep gratitude and appreciation for the continuous and tireless efforts by both the Town of Cary government and the Sister Cities Association of Cary. It is because of all of your contributions that our mutual exchanges have attained such a great degree of success. Through Ms. Chuan, I would like to pass along my gift and personal regards to the mayor and the citizens of Cary as a token of the long-lasting friendship between Town of Cary and Hsinchu City. I wish the people of the Cary all the best. Yours sincerely, Hsinchu Mayor Lin Zhijian.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you. We are grateful and blessed that the mayor of Hsinchu has sent such wonderful gifts and said such wonderful things, and I do hope to visit in the near future.
Definitely.
And
Thank you.
we'll definitely be in contact with him.
All right.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
Thank you. Actually, the official, this is not official.
Okay,
So just give it to
okay,
official signature.
okay, thank you. Okay, the fun continues. We now move to item 2.2, recognition of our town manager, Ben Shiver, whose last meeting is tonight. And we're going to make comments from our table, and we're going to go from my left to my right and make our parting remarks, even though he's going to be sitting there probably at least 3 or 4 more hours. So I'll start with Mr. Yurha.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I've known Ben for about 18 years, but only real well over the last 3 years since I've had the privilege of sitting here at the council table. But right from the beginning, one thing has always struck me about Ben, and that's how you take things, you take town matters, town issues so personally. Now, that may not be a good thing for you, but it's a great thing for the town. I think it has been. There's the rare occasion when we'll get an email from a citizen complaining about something, the very rare occasion when that happens. When we have our meetings with Ben, he's passionate about those things. It really concerns him. It doesn't matter whether it's just one person out of 150,000 that he has to be concerned with. It's a special thing, and he sees that through to completion to make sure that issue is resolved. And I think that passion for customer service that you've always had throughout your career, Ben, combined with the love for the town of Cary, which is evident, really are the hallmarks of your tenure here with Cary. Being a town manager was not just a job. To you, it was Ben. It was you. And I've come to believe that you've been a major contributor over all the years you've been here to something that we here at this council table, and I think most of our citizens, are very, very proud of. And that's that we can run a really big town so remarkably well that we're the envy of all of our neighbors. In doing so,
by using good old small-town values. And I see that as a major thing. We're going to miss that, Ben, that's for sure. But then I got to thinking that maybe we're not going to miss it quite as much as we think we are, because, of course, you know, we're searching for a new town manager, and we spent some time writing a position description of the town manager. And we had the opportunity, I think, at that time, to start from scratch, to start fresh. Okay, Ben's gone. Now let's get a town manager we really want in here, you know? to rewrite everything. But we didn't do that. And if you look at the job description that we put together that's out there, and hopefully people are applying for it as we speak, when we look at that job description, what we described was Ben Shiver. And I really think that's something you need to be proud of. It shows, I think it demonstrates a job well done all these years, and I think it demonstrates that you're going to have an impact on this town in the future. Certainly, the town is much better for it, that's for sure. So for those things, I thank you. And more than that, I thank you for your continued friendship. I say continued friendship because it's going to continue. We're kind of neighbors. And hopefully I'll see you in the park, sitting on a bench, feeding the pigeons or something, whatever us old retired people do as the time rolls on. But thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, nobody should ever have to go after Ed Yerho. Why don't we make him first? Well, first off, I think that if there were 1,200 people, they were all standing here, and as I heard them in line, everybody thanked you for your service. Because that is, if we were defining Ben, the first definition would be service. And the second thing that defines you is town manager. So I thought I'd look up in a dictionary, sorry, it wasn't, who uses a dictionary? It was Wikipedia, because there's an app for that. Town manager, and your picture came up. Okay, it should have come up. Because whenever I talk to other people around North Carolina, they'll say, oh, wow, you live in Cary? And then the second thing they always say, if they're from municipal government, you have the best town manager. And I say, yeah, I know. It's always this, the very important next second thing is we like to live there too, right? And you have the best town manager. And I think one of the interesting things about you being town manager, besides your love of Cary, is your passion and caring for all of your employees and for all of town council. Even just this week when I wasn't feeling well, and staff called and asked me, so how are you? And when people saw me today, and the first thing you said is, how are you? Because that is who you are. Sometimes, I wish I were lucky enough to be one of your daughters, but sometimes when we would meet every other Thursday, and I'm sorry for that, at 7:30 in the morning for breakfast, I would feel like I was meeting with family. Because we were doing work, but it was in a family environment. And I think that's why people like to work in Cary, is because this is a family. We call ourselves a family. We all might not agree all the time, just like our families don't agree, unless maybe you all do agree. But that's really how we feel. And so you're not, just like when a family member moves to another location, not moves on, but moves to another location, we don't lose you as part of our family. You're just a little bit further away. So I wish you all the best. And if you change your mind, there's still time to do that. Thank you.
I won't be doing that.
Well, this is both a happy and a sad day for Cary. I'm very happy for you that you get to move on and start the next chapter of your life in retirement, and maybe get to some things on that honey-do list that have been put off for the last 20 some odd years, and hopefully enjoy more time with your family and your friends. And I don't know if many of you realize how time-consuming and demanding the job of town manager here is at Cary. And I always remember when I first got on council, I was like, where's the room with the bed in it that the manager sleeps in? It seems like every time I was here, you were here. If I came here at a late night to do something or come for a meeting, you were here. I don't know if you never clock in and you never clock out. It's just part of it. But it is a sad day because we are losing one of the greatest leaders that we've had here in the town of Cary, and will be very difficult to replace. We've made a lot of good decisions as a council over the years. I believe our greatest decision was the decision to hire you as the town manager. I think that has paid huge dividends for this community over the years, as evidenced by a lot of our accomplishments and the progress that we've made in downtown. We wanted to do downtown. We had a vision and we had our goals, but thanks to your assistance and your leadership and your guidance, we were able to accomplish so much. So I genuinely thank you for that, and I know that the downtown Cary community thanks you for that. Cary is truly a better place because of your leadership, and the key word is leader. I mean, it's, town manager, he's the head boss of the town, or of the town organization. But it's really easy to be a boss. I mean, all you have to do is tell somebody what to do, and if they're a relatively decent employee, they can do it. A leader inspires people to do great things, and I think that's what you've done. So it has been an honor and a privilege to serve with you and to work with you. I've learned so much from you, and a lot of other members of our town staff that I actually kind of find myself implementing in my own business and how we do things there, and how well you work with people and communicate. And dang it, we're just going to miss the heck out of you. So thank you so much for everything you've done to make Cary a great place.
Thank you. My turn. A lot of good things have been said. I didn't write anything down, but I figured by the time it got to me, I'd have to be winging it anyway, so I didn't write anything down. Congratulations on being the 2015 Citizen of the Year. If you didn't know that. I had the honor of awarding him that last night. Being in the mayor's seat, I've worked with Ben pretty closely on a lot of things, and there were a lot of challenges that people did not see. I mean, even after MetLife was announced, we had some significant challenges. And I remember sitting down looking at each other, and I think there was a little fear in both of our eyes. And he said, "Don't worry, Mayor, we're going to make this happen." And I believed, I saw the confidence in him, and he made it happen. With a little help from some friends, but we made it happen. And I've seen that in the years we've worked together, and it was just incredible to see. But one of the joys I've had as being mayor, I am not kidding, one of the top 3 joys I've had as being mayor was the night we made him the offer to be town councilman. I just want to share a little bit of that process. So we had a process to narrow it down. We got to the final 2, and we had these grueling interviews, and these 2 final candidates, one being sitting right over there, were excellent. And so the process was, after we interviewed them the last time, to discuss it and then come back at a later date and decide and then make an offer. So after the second interview, Ben was the first, I looked around the table and it was dead silence. And I'm like, "So what do you guys want to do?" "Hire Ben now." "Go get the phone and call Ben." So I called Ben and asked him if he could come down for one more question. And the question was, would he be our town manager? And that was one of the biggest thrills I had as being mayor. It was a lot of fun. I at first asked you what you were doing. He said, "Well, I'm in the recliner having a beer." But it's truly been a pleasure. I view you as a friend, a close friend, and I think you've done wonderful things for this town. And we wouldn't be the town we are today without your help and all the many things that I think about, all the things that happened in the last 6 years. And there's pretty incredible things that have happened under your leadership, and it's truly appreciated. And you made us all look good, and that's a bonus for us when you can make us look good, because we try not to look good sometimes. So God bless you, and thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Jennifer, your cleanup.
Man. Seems really unfair. Next time we start on this side. Ben, it's been a delight. And as Harold just mentioned, there was no hesitancy and question that you were the right one to be our manager. And as we've gone through this time, it's been evident that you were the right person to lead this organization, and you've done it in a stellar manner. One thing that has always made me proud, and Lori's right, we can go places and people from across the state say, oh, Ben Shiver's your manager. He's such a good manager. As if they need to tell me this, but it's true. So you have the admiration of people from across the state. But you have increased or an abundant amount of admiration from people throughout the community. And that's one thing that I think has helped distinguish you as a stellar manager, is that you have been out in the community and you've been part of it, and you've had a real heart for this community from day one, and I really appreciate that. And thank you for being such a good friend to us, because not only have you been a counsel to us and an advisor and given us great guidance and kept us accountable at times and helped us be collaborative, but you've been a great friend, and I've really enjoyed that. And I'll just say really fast to your family, you know, many of us have families, and we know what the sacrifice is that council members and staff members make. And it's really the children who make the sacrifice at times, children who miss out on bedtimes with their parent, because people who work in municipal government have to be out at night frequently, many nights a week at times, and it's really hard on families. And I just want you to know that the sacrifice that your father made, well, it's hard for you to have made that sacrifice too. It has been for really a great cause. And your dad has built this community, and it is what it is today because of what your father has contributed to it. So as you look back on your childhood and you think, oh, Dad wasn't there because he was at a meeting, you can think, but he was doing great things. And it was really remarkable what he's done. So Ben, thank you for your time here. Thank you for everything. I wish you weren't retiring. I wish you were staying on. But I know that you've trained your staff and worked with your staff and developed a great staff, and your legacy will live on.
So Ben, you can't leave without us doing a few whereases. So we want to recognize this with a few whereases. And it's commending you for your devoted service to the town of Cary. And we're all going to read this. Usually it's one of us, but we all wanted to share in this. So I'm going to start off with Don.
Whereas a native North Carolinian, Benjamin T. Shiver, earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte and a Master of Public Affairs degree from North Carolina State University. He is an accredited manager with the International City County Management Association and a member of the North Carolina City and County Management Association. He is also a past president of the North Carolina Community Development Association. He earned certificates for personal administration and community development administration from the Institute of Government. In 2008, he graduated from the UNC School of Government's Public Executive Leadership Academy.
Whereas, after 39 years in North Carolina local government, Ben is retiring. I feel like everybody should go, aww. He began his public service career with the city of Greenville, and over a period of 5 years, he held the positions of planner, director of community development, and assistant to the manager. Prior to joining the town of Cary, he served as the Chatham County manager for 6 years and as the town manager of Siler City for 8 years. Ben started with the town of Cary in 1995 as the assistant town manager, and he was appointed as town manager on March 12, 2009.
Whereas, outside of public service, Ben is an active member in our community. He has 31 years of service as a Rotarian, with 18 of those as a member of the Cary Rotary, for which he served as president in 2006-2007. In addition to Rotary, his community activities have included participation in the Kiwanis Club, the United Way, and the Boy Scouts of America.
Whereas in 2013, Ben implemented the reorganization of town staff to provide improved customer service and internal efficiencies without incurring additional costs. His passion for quality, customer-oriented service was irrefutably confirmed by independent agencies when the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources, police, and fire departments all received the highest level of accreditation.
Whereas, through Ben's regional leadership and cooperation, he championed the Cary utility system, constructing the $280 million Western Wake Regional Wastewater Reclamation Facilities, the Cary Apex Water Plant Expansion Project at $77 million, the installation of Aquastar automated metering system at $18 million, and the successful completion of the utility merger with the town of Morrisville.
And whereas, under his leadership, Ben began the first of many revitalization initiatives for downtown Cary by hiring the first downtown development manager, refurbishing the Cary Arts Center, renovating the Cary Theater and the historic Jones House, and initiating the Academy Streetscape project and the new downtown park. He kicked off the renaissance of downtown Cary while demonstrating the highest level of integrity in treating all of those he came in contact with, corporate leaders, citizens, and employees, with dignity, respect, and fairness.
Now therefore, I, Harold Weinbrecht Jr., Mayor of the town of Cary, do hereby, on behalf of the entire Cary Town Council, express our appreciation for Ben for his 20 years of faithful service and devotion to enhancing the quality of life of all Cary citizens. We have repeatedly lauded Cary as a great place to live, work, play, raise a family. And we thank Ben for his vision, his leadership, and we wish you much happiness and continued success in your retirement years, proclaimed this 24th day of September 2015. So this is where Ben usually gives remarks, but before he does, I'd like to, I know his family's in attendance, I'd like for his family and Ben to join me at the podium for a little presentation. Somebody that's done incredible things for a town, for the public, as Ben has done over the years, deserves the highest praise possible. And that's what I'm here to do tonight. I'm going to present the Order of the Longleaf Pine, it is presented to those who are outstanding North Carolinians with a proven record of serving the public. And it's only presented by the governor. This is an amazing, outstanding honor, and there couldn't be a more deserving person than Ben Shiver. So, having said that, from the governor, reposing special confidence in the integrity, learning, and zeal, Benjamin T. Shiver, I do by present these presents confer the Order of the Longleaf Pine with the rank of Ambassador Extraordinaire, privileged to enjoy fully all the rights granted to its members of this exalted order, among which is the special privilege to propose the following: the North Carolina toast in select company anywhere in the free world. And that toast goes: here's to the land of the longleaf pine, the summer land where the sun doth shine, where the weak grow strong and the strong go great. Here's to the down home state, old North State. Ladies and gentlemen, the Order of the Longleaf Pine. Okay, Ben, you're on.
Wow, that's a lot. And as always, council has been so very generous to me. And, and for that, I want to tell you that I am very grateful. This is quite an honor and quite a surprise. So thank you very much. I do have a few prepared remarks, if you'll allow me a few minutes to address the council and say a few things that I feel strongly about.
And I want to thank you very much for the kind comments that came from the council dais just a few moments ago. The Order of the Longleaf Pine, the resolution, they are generous, and I'm very grateful for your recognition. There are very few, if any, local government managers, I would say not just in the nation, but the entire world, because the International Association of City and County Managers is worldwide, who have or will experience the honor and satisfaction of serving and retiring, as I will, as the town manager of the best local government in the nation. Accepting this recognition requires me to acknowledge many people that have had a major hand in visioning, planning, designing, and building our town, have generously supported me, and have contributed to my growth both professionally and personally. First, our citizens, many of which are here tonight, who are exceptionally smart and engaged, who have wisely chosen their leaders, in my opinion, and made their wishes known to them. Second are those who have gone before us and began the building of this great community many years ago. And most important to me, I think, during my tenure at Town Council, that collectively established a solid vision and is characterized by, I think, several important and very good traits for a council. Some of these are, and the time won't allow me to list them all, but I'll go through a few that I think are especially important. A remarkably collegial approach to making decisions where divergent views are openly discussed at this table and decided at the council table. 2, an unwavering dedication to the appropriate look and feel for our community. If there's a single thread, I think, that flows through each council member and is always given the closest attention and consideration, is whatever projects or whatever we're going to do, how is it going to look and how is it going to feel in our community? Is it going to match the Cary look and feel? Being open and transparent in our operations and decisions. An extraordinary motivation to serve Cary citizens with wise and thoughtful consideration of the issues, simply because you want Cary to be an even better place to live, work, and play than it is today. Your focus on customer service and your direction to me and the staff to continuously improve it. Your understanding of and an unwavering dedication to a very strong financial position, and at the same time keeping taxes the lowest in Wake County. And that direction from council has always been very clear to me, and I've never had a question about that. A remarkably unified focus on economic development, especially our efforts downtown. And finally, your unfailing support of me and the town staff, your honest and fair assessment of how we perform, your willingness to provide the necessary resources to carry out your vision, your courtesy and kindness, and for just being a great group of people to hang out with. So on an individual basis, there are a few things I would like to leave with you as observations I've made, a few about each of you. Don't worry. Don't worry. Ed has brought forward a new focus for historic preservation, attention to our aging population, of which I am a part, the wonderful history lessons he gives us as part of our ceremonial openings, and a love of all things about baseball. Lori brings a broad knowledge of technology, a focus on citizen involvement and environmental sustainability, proved by the fact that she owns and drives an elf car. She's known to sleep in a wet cardboard box, and she sometimes dresses as a clown. Now, the latter two things I'll leave to y'all to think about and ask Lori about what that's all about. It's not a criticism from me, but just facts that we know about Lori.
Family.
Don pays close attention to the detail of the budget, going through every line, perhaps more than anyone, and brings the perspective of the small business owner to the table. His name is spelled DOWNTOWNPARK. and provides strong support for our downtown redevelopment efforts, and always says what he means and means what he says. Jack's not here this evening, but I can't resist for saying a few things about Jack, because he's also a very dear council member to me, as well as everyone else. Some say Jack has been serving since the founding of Cary. To paraphrase the archaeologist Renee Belloc in the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jack doesn't just move through history, he is history. His remarkable 27-year service record has created a wealth of knowledge about the history of the council decisions, and he uses that knowledge in wise and moderate reflection as he considers the issues. He is always our connection to economic development with Wake County, a sister city's advocate, a golfer, and has great knowledge of all things Irish. Jennifer grew up on the council, having been appointed when I believe she was 14. She wears many hats and may be the busiest person I know, as, among other things, she connects us to the region as an officer on no less than 3 regional boards that are very important to town business, and perhaps a bit more than others, is focused on the look and feel of Cary. All of us are, but perhaps Jennifer just a little bit more. So my advice to developers in our community: if your product contains a lot of attractive brick and other details that make a difference, with maybe just a little bit less density, you will be golden. Harold, our mayor, many thanks for always being available between council meetings when I need you to seek council direction or opinion, for offering wise advice and informed opinion, and helping to bring resolution to issues in between the council meetings. Since his tenure began, he has opened up the table to allow all opinions to come forth as part of debate, and he has provided transparency to our citizens on the workings of their government. Maybe once or twice a little too much transparency. That's kind of an inside joke. And is our health role model and the resident tennis pro. Should Harold win and serve out his next term, which seems like a lock to me, he will be the longest-serving mayor in Cary history. I believe that is correct. And together with his uncle, former Mayor Fred Bond, their family will have had quite an impact in shaping our community called Cary. I have to thank the town staff, without which nothing would be accomplished. They are the most professional, knowledgeable, service-oriented, and fun group anywhere, public or private. They are loyal to me, to each other, faithful to council's vision and the direction for our community, and true servants to Cary citizens. They are the ones dedicated to your vision, doing those things that day by day and year over year builds the community you want. What we call among the staff the Cary way, as sometimes council does as well, a culture of excellence that has developed over many years and needs to be preserved as we go forward. Finally, I thank my Lord for guidance and many blessings, my wife, best friend, and greatest love, Laura, my wonderful and loving daughters, Lindsay and Kate, for putting up with my idiosyncrasies, and most important, their indispensable support and love as I have moved them from town to town so I could pursue my career. And Jennifer, I think you pointed to a great deal of that tension that happens in families when you're in public service. For having the trust and faith in me and providing the indispensable support to be your town manager, I thank you all very deeply. It has been a great experience and a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to take a short 5-minute recess so Mr. Shiver can say goodbye to his family. I don't think they want to stay here till about midnight whenever we're going to finish, but it'll just be a very brief recess and we'll be right back. Thank you. We'll reconvene our council meeting, and we move to Public Speaks Out section of our meeting. We've included instructions for speaking at Public Speaks Out on the printed agenda. And if you would like to speak at Public Speaks Out, I would ask that you sit in the rows to my right that are shown as reserved. And please follow the instructions on the printed agenda. Sorry, I didn't mean to blind you over there. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes for their comments, and speakers may speak on any topic as long as it's not a public hearing. And actually, that's to your advantage, because in a public hearing, you get 5 minutes instead of 3. There's a 3-minute time limit, as I said, and to be fair to all of our speakers, I'm going to be strictly enforcing the time limit. There's a 1-hour time limit overall for Public Speaks Out. There's a timer located on the podium that will help you keep track of your time. When that green light turns yellow, that means you have 30 seconds remaining. And when it turns to a flashing red, that's when I'm going to interrupt you, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers, and ask you to immediately conclude your comments. And I thank all our speakers in advance for adhering to the guidelines that we have set up. I'd also ask that if you're with a group, please have a spokesperson speak on behalf of the group and try to reduce repetitive comments. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or anything else that may distract from the meeting. So now's the time for Public Speaks Out, and I would invite our first speaker forward. Anyone for Public Speaks Out? Are we all here for public hearings? Anyone at all? I see no one. We'll close Public Speaks Out. And we move to agenda item 4, which is the consent agenda. On behalf of, for the benefit of people watching our meeting on TV, I'm going to take a moment to read off all of our consent items. Please know that one vote approves all of these items. After I read these items, I'm going to ask council members if they would like to pull any of these items for discussion and a vote. On the consent agenda, we have minutes. We have consideration and request to amend the 2015 Town Council meeting calendar. Ratification of resolutions for the following: Mom's Auto Care Site Plan and Middle Creek Community Library Special Use and Site Plan. Scheduling public hearings for the following annexation requests: Standard Pacific of the Carolinas LLC, Ridgewood Farms, Howard Family Property, Thomas and Nancy Harvey, James T. and Donna D. Turner Microsphere. Consideration of design elements for the Carpenter Fire Station Road requirement and grade separation project. I've been notified that Mr. Urha would like to pull item 411, which is the consideration design elements for the Carpenter Fire Station Road realignment and grade separation project, and we'll make that our item 6.6. Are there any other items that council members would like to pull for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to our first public hearing. It's the owner-initiated annexation petition 15A10. John Edward Oram, the property owner, and town residents may speak at this public hearing. Mr. Nicholas of our staff will introduce the item. We'll open the public hearing, and council will not take action on this item this evening. Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you. Good evening, council. This request is for annexation of 26 acres of property located at 1600 and 1720 High House Road, approximately 300 feet east of the High House Road and Magnus Drive intersection. Request also includes 1.58 acres of adjacent right-of-way. The property is in Cary's ETJ and it's zoned transitional residential conditional use. The request is associated with subdivision plan 15 SB05, which proposes a total of 60 lots.
All right, thank you very much. Now's time for the public hearing for 15A10, and I would invite the first speaker to the podium. Anyone to speak at this annexation public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for requests or comments. All right. This will come back to us at a later date. Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. We now move to public hearing item 5.2. It's 15A12 for High House Road properties. The property owner and town residents may speak at this public hearing. And once again, Mr. Nicholas will introduce this item, and we will not take action on this item either. Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you. This request is for annexation of 27.4 acres of property located at 2420 and 2504 High House Road, approximately 360 feet east of the NC 55 Highway and High House Road intersection. The property is in Cary's ETJ and it's zoned transitional residential conditional use. And the request is associated with subdivision plan 15 SB08, which proposes a total of 64 lots.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. Now's the time for public hearing on 15A12 High House Road Properties Annexation, and I would invite our first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and open it up to council members for questions or comments. Seeing none, we'll see this one at a later date as well. We now move to items 53, 54, and 55. It's the 7711 Carpenter Fire Station Road Comprehensive Plan Amendment, 5.4 William and Billy Mills Annexation 15A15, and 5.5 7711 Carpenter Fire Station Road Rezoning Request 15REZ11. We're going to hear the staff and their staff report. We're going to allow the applicant to explain their request, and then we'll conduct a public hearing on all three items at the same time. Please understand that council is not taking action on any of these items this evening. Instead, we're going to refer the comprehensive plan amendment and the rezoning request to our Planning and Zoning Board for their recommendation. Each of these items will come back to council at a future date for our vote and consideration. Ms. Chandler of our staff will present the comprehensive plan amendment, and Ms. Bierman of our staff will present the annexation and rezoning request. Ms. Chandler.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Mayor Weinberg just said, I'm going to start with the comprehensive plan amendment portion of the request for 7711 Carpenter Fire Station Road. The 6.8 acre parcel is located at the southwest corner of Carpenter Fire Station Road and Green Level Church Road. Notice of this public hearing was mailed to property owners within 800 feet of the subject property, published on the town's website, and posted on the subject property. This slide shows stream buffers and floodways within and around the subject site. And this slide shows existing and proposed greenway trails. You can see there's a nice network in northwest Cary. Both Carpenter Fire Station Road and Green Level Church Road are existing major thoroughfares. And there is a future C-Tran route planned along Green Level Church Road. The Northwest Area Plan is the governing document as per the town's comprehensive plan. The land use designation as per the Northwest Area Plan is medium density residential, that is single family attached or detached dwellings between 3 and 8 units per acre. The applicant proposes to change the land use to office institutional. The land development ordinance sets out 4 criteria to consider when determining whether or not a comprehensive plan amendment is necessary, and staff believes the first item, changes in projections or assumptions, is applicable with the Northwest Area Plan. And at this time, I'll hand the presentation over to Ms. Bierman to continue with the rezoning request portion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The existing zoning on this site is R40. The proposed zoning is office and institutional conditional use. The proposed zoning conditions would limit the land use to daycare and office use, with the daycare limited to no more than 13,500 square feet of area and with a maximum of 186 students. The office use would be limited to no more than 49,560 square feet. The applicant is also proposing a zoning condition to increase the required vegetation in the opaque buffers that are required adjacent to the surrounding residential properties. This condition would increase the required evergreen understory trees from 14 to 18 trees per 100 linear feet of buffer area, and also with that increase in the number, they would be planted in double staggered rows as a way to improve the efficiency of, or the opacity of the buffer. I'd like to go back here to the notification map. This map shows the properties that were notified of the public hearing. No valid protest petitions were filed in this case. I do need to point out at this time, however, the state law permitting protest petitions, as you know, was recently repealed by the legislature. That repeal had an effective date of August the 1st. There was some confusion as to what that date meant with regard to new rezoning cases that were early in the pipeline and had not yet been scheduled for a public hearing. At the neighborhood meeting for the rezoning cases that were submitted in July of this year, and that neighborhood meeting was held on August 5th, staff did not proactively inform the attendees of the availability of the protest petition process at that time, and we may have inadvertently informed people that the protest petition, in fact, was no longer an option due to that legislation. In fact, however, those cases had been submitted by that deadline. Go back to the proposed zoning conditions. And just let you know, at the neighborhood meeting, there were several areas of concern that were expressed by the attendees. Those concerns included perimeter buffers, the location and design of the buildings that would be proposed, stormwater management, the location of parking areas and retaining walls, and how medical waste in any office areas would be disposed of. Also, Council has received a petition via email that included a number of other concerns that had been expressed by citizens commenting on this case. And also, staff received some information that the applicant and some of the neighbors were working to resolve some of the issues that were raised at the neighborhood meeting through a private agreement. Staff was asked to review a draft of that private agreement. We did decline, as the town does not have a role in any private matters beyond the scope of what's included as a zoning condition. And this, as was mentioned, this is also the public hearing for the annexation case where the applicant did request that the property be annexed at this time as well. And this shows the property in relation to the existing corporate limits. That concludes staff's comments.
This time, I would invite the applicant forward for their remarks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Michael Birch, attorney with Morningstar Law Group, here on behalf of the applicant, Fire Station Investments, LLC. Mr. Ellie Zablud and partners are here this evening as well. I'll focus on our rezoning request, of course, which has the comprehensive plan amendment as well, but our request is to rezone from R40 residential to O&I conditional use for the purposes of developing the property for daycare and office land uses. We have added conditions that limit the land uses to office and daycare. We have limited the size of those land uses to a scale appropriate given our proximity both to a major intersection but as well as to adjoining residential uses. And as staff highlighted, we have added a condition that enhances the buffer, the opacity of that buffer, and really providing additional evergreen understory trees in that line of sight from the residential to the property where it would be developed. And we think this request and the comprehensive plan amendment request addresses a lack of office both in Northwest Cary, but particularly in and around the Cary Park Community Activity Center. As the staff report notes, much of this area has been built out for retail and residential uses and very limited office uses. So this is meeting a demand for office and institutional uses in this area. There is adequate infrastructure, again, with the improvements that would be made as a part of the development to serve this development. And again, the conditions that have been added and that we continue to work with the neighbors will ensure a compatible development. So as staff mentioned, we had a very productive neighborhood meeting. One condition came out of that, which has been added. We've had a follow-up meeting with the neighbors, and we continue to work on some additional conditions to address their comments and come to a compromise on this case. So I know you'll hear from a few of them this evening, but we've had very cooperative and productive discussion and hope that continues through the process. Thank you.
Thank you. It's almost time for the public hearing, but I do want to, I think it's worth explaining to people why we're looking at 3 items instead of 1. To develop a property in the town, the plan of how that property develops has to match what you want to develop. What type of use, it's called the zoning, has to match what you want to develop, and it has to be within the town. So those are the 3 things we're looking at, and that's why you see 3 items instead of 1 in case. And I know there are some that are more knowledgeable in this area than others, but I thought it was worth explaining why we have 3 items instead of 1. So now's the time for the public hearing for these 3 items related to 7711 Carpenter Fire Station Road, and I would invite our first speaker forward.
Hello. My name is Mary Lee. My husband and I live in Cary Park, and our property is adjacent to the Mills property, which is the property in question tonight. I'm here just to speak briefly to the petition that I emailed each of you yesterday, which also is being handed out now. To give you a little bit of background, several of the Amberley and Cary Park neighbors who attended the August 5th meeting got together to discuss, what our reactions were to the proposed development, how it would impact us, and how it would impact our community. And what we decided at that meeting was that really this was an okay plan. We did have some concessions that we felt were really conditions that we felt needed to be met in order for it to be acceptable to us. But first we thought we should gauge the support from the surrounding community. So what we did is we just did this petition, which you have in your hands now, and we went about it in the old-fashioned way of just stuffing it in mailboxes. I think my husband and I ran off 75 copies and put them in the mailbox, and then we emailed them out as well. And as you can see in the petition, if you've had a chance to look at it, it clearly states that we are not opposing this development. It does say we do have concerns, but we also have solutions. And the petition was our way of saying, hey, neighbors, what do you think? Do you agree with us? Are you behind us? If so, we want your comments and we'd love your signature. That was over a little over 2 weeks ago. Within the first 24 hours, we received over 100 signatures, and as of today, we have 250. We believe that the signatures and the comments speak for themselves. In the meantime, as was mentioned, we did meet with Mr. Zablud and his partners and the Mills. We didn't get everything we asked for, but we do think we've come to an agreement that we can all live with. And my husband is going to continue with some of the agreements that we talked about. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name's Donald Lee. I live at a property, my wife and I do at 104 Granwood Court, which is adjacent to the property that we're discussing. And I'm speaking on behalf of some Cary Park and Amberley residents who have some concerns or interest, if you will, in the rezoning of this particular property and the commercial construction project that's supposed to occur there. My purpose is just to summarize some of the terms that we have been discussing with Mr. and Mrs. Mills and Mr. Zablud as well. And at this point, our support for the rezoning and the construction project is conditional on these parties arriving at an agreement. But we've had very, very productive discussions, and we think that we are virtually there. So to help alleviate the concerns of the neighbors, we are trying to work on a handful of things that we think will contribute to not only the project, but to help alleviate our concerns, some of which have already been included in, I understand, the submittal by Mr. Zablud. So one is an opaque buffer to be established along the western and the southern boundary lines of the property, which will extend 40 feet into the interior of the property from the existing property line. So I understand that that's already been included. The second is an opportunity upon request by the property owners for Mr. Zablud or Fire Station Investments to build a 6-foot privacy fence along the Carpenter Fire Station Road boundary or along the adjacent property owners' property lines. We were asking for any containers or dumpsters that are on that particular property would be enclosed in an aesthetically designed brick structure, steel doors, and organic buffer, which I believe has already been included in the submission. We were also discussing lighting and asking for lighting to be located and designed such that there would be 0-foot candles spilling over past the buffer that would be located around the property. And finally, the terms of this agreement would continue with and bind the title to the property for the benefit of the adjacent property owners. So these things are things that we have discussed recently with Mr. and Mrs. Mills and with Mr. Zablud. Very, very productive discussion, and we feel very good that these things are things that could be beneficial to all concerned. And we are very thankful to Mr. and Mrs. Mills and to Mr. Zablud for spending some time with us to work through these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, thank you very much for providing me with the opportunity to present my thoughts on the rezoning of the 7711 Carpenter Fire Station Road property. My name is Jason Cannell, and as with Skip and Mary before me, I am presenting the views of a collective group of homeowners who are adjacent to this 7711 parcel. I would ask that my fellow homeowners would rise, Jeff and Kamish, Mary and Skip, just as a show of support that we're all here together and that my views are representing them and others who cannot join us tonight. Mary presented you with an overview of what our group thinks about the rezoning of the parcel, and then Skip has presented you with the specific articles of the development agreement that we've been working on with Mr. Zablud and the Mills. The last point that I would like to bring to your attention is our hopes as adjacent landowners of the active role that we're looking for all of you and your staff to take in the successful management and oversight of this project. As you and Mr. Zablud are aware, we have a 200-foot riparian buffer between the portions of our properties in Amberley and portions of the properties in Cary Park that are adjacent to the 7711 parcel. You can see that beautifully represented on our map up here as that nice green space that is adjacent to the property and moves down to the Cary Park Lake. Those parcels, that buffer, is shown on the Wake County Plats, Book of Maps, 2005, page 1758. That riparian buffer exists to ensure the best management practices for stormwater management around our properties. In discussing with Mr. Zablud our concerns about the impact that this project may have on that buffer, he was very kind to describe how he will follow the town's ordinances to manage erosion and stormwater runoff. That involves his creation of silt dams and a retention pond. Because none of us who are here tonight as adjacent property owners have expertise with respect to stormwater management, what we're asking and what we sincerely request on your part is that you and your stormwater experts take a very active role in minimizing, if not completely eliminating, any of the erosion and stormwater impacts that have the potential to occur during and after construction and affect the quality of our properties, the riparian corridor illustrated on that map, the Panther Creek watershed, of which the Cary Park Lake is within, and the Cary Park Lake itself. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. I want to thank our speakers. It's very rare we get a group that's organized, that's speaking for other people, that don't repeat. So it's very, very appreciative, especially when we have a long night ahead of us, and it really means a lot to us, and it actually has a bigger impact. I do want to cover a couple of issues before I pass along to my council colleagues. I mentioned about the annexation, which is required before you can develop. I also mentioned about the land use plan. So that's the plan of how the land is supposed to develop. And these are all difficult unless you deal with it every day like we do. And then there's the zoning, which is the type of use. Now, we are not allowed to request site plan issues. What are site plan issues? Those are some of the things you're hearing, such as lighting, stormwater management, erosion control, riparian buffer. However, and that is administratively approved if all of this is approved. However, staff is required to follow that before it can be approved. And if it's approved, they will enforce that. And I can say that, Ms. Bierman, I'll ask that you confirm or deny that.
That is correct.
She doesn't like my exact words, but she'll agree with it. But in a nutshell, that's kind of what I'm getting across. Having said that, the developer can propose anything he would like along with the rezoning, and now I'm going to look toward my attorney, with some restrictions. They can't include everything in a rezoning that you would like, but they can include some things. I don't know how you want to comment on that, but.
Well, there are a number of conditions that the town can accept if they're offered. They mostly relate to setbacks and perhaps fences and things like that. But the staff is familiar with what can be acceptable and can advise.
But like lighting and things like that?
Some kind of lighting might be appropriate.
Okay. I'm looking at staff.
With some of the comments that were made with regard to the specific conditions, at this point, I would say that the conditions that have been offered by the applicant at this point are limited to the conditions that you see here. Those are all the conditions that have been limited. The applicant, for some of the additional conditions that have been discussed as part of the private agreement, if the applicant voluntarily offered some of those conditions, we could certainly take a look at those. I think we would need to go through and evaluate them to see which ones would be appropriate as zoning conditions, because we need to make sure that they can be worded in such a way that that they can be implemented by staff as we go through the site plan, and of course that they're voluntarily offered by the applicant. But we could certainly evaluate that if the applicant chose to offer those as conditions. Otherwise, any conditions that are in the private agreement would be implemented and enforced entirely privately, and the staff would not look beyond the specific requirements of the LDO and the specific additional requirements set forth through the zoning conditions that were offered when we review the site plan.
So in a nutshell, if it's not in writing, they don't have to do it. And that's what you have to be aware of. So if they propose something, it has to be in writing and a condition of the zoning. And we can't enforce that. When it gets to site level, which is the next level, we can enforce things that are required under our ordinance. And I know that sounds really confusing, but that's my best way to describe it. I'll let my colleagues jump in here and maybe they can help.
Yeah, I think you raised good points. I mean, the important thing to note is that if an applicant says he's going to do things, then you want to get that in a condition so that it's enforceable. There are some things that we cannot have the applicant propose in a condition, and those things, one of those things are changes to our ordinance that that are more lenient than our ordinance already is. And so there's some, I read through the petition yesterday, and there are some items in here that I think it would be beneficial for the citizens to meet with the staff and find out how their concerns can best be addressed. One of the concerns I have, and I don't know how this would be worked out, but is the issue about parking placement, because our ordinance says that the parking should not be between the building and the street because we want to have a good streetscape. But as far as your neighborhood goes, you might prefer for the parking to be up near the street so that it's not back behind the buildings near your home. So we would have to see how that could even be addressed in a condition. And again, it's not for the council to be able to ask, it's for the applicant to be able to offer. And it is our job to look to make sure that the applicant has adequately addressed the concerns of the residents through the conditions. And if not, we deny it. We don't deny it because he didn't put something in that we asked for. So that's an important clarification. There is a couple other ones in here. The runoff has been a big concern for citizens for years. And we set our standard so that we say that the project should not create any more runoff than existed before the project was developed. And Mary, I don't know if you want to address that at all, because this may be one area that we don't need additional conditions because we already have such a high standard.
We do have high standards, and any conditions that are offered we would need to look at, because we don't need any conditions for anything that's already covered by our ordinance. And we do have high standards.
Okay.
Other comments from this end? We're good? The only other thing I would mention, since you're working with the applicant, which is excellent, please keep doing that. If they make changes between now and the time the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board of Citizens makes their recommendation and reviews this project, if there are changes made between tonight and that time, then there will be a public hearing at that meeting. So you'll have another opportunity to speak on those changes. And then they will make their recommendation to council. It'll come back to us at a later date, and it will be no earlier than a couple of months. Is that correct? Depending on if they change anything.
Because there's a comprehensive plan amendment that will need to be vetted and action taken prior to the rezoning, the earliest that the rezoning case is likely to go to the Planning and Zoning Board is in January.
Okay, so we've got a few months. So please continue to work and with the applicant, and applicant, please continue to work with the residents. And thank you, Ms. Bierman. This will be forwarded then to the Planning and Zoning Board for their review. And thank you all for attending. We'll now move to our next public hearing. It's for items 5, 6, and 5, 7, the Cook property at Highway 55, comprehensive plan amendment, and the rezoning request, 15 REZ 13. We're going to hear from our staff. We're going to ask the applicant to explain the request. We're going to conduct a public hearing for both of these items. Council will not take action. Instead, we're going to refer them both to our Planning and Zoning Board for their recommendation. These items will come back to us at a future date. Ms. Redling of our staff will present the comprehensive plan amendment, and Ms. Grannon will present the rezoning.
Good evening. This case involves both a comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning request for 4.37 acres located at 3890 Highway 55 in Northwest Cary. I'll give the overview of the site and present the comprehensive plan amendment request. The site is located approximately 550 feet south of the intersection of Morrisville Carpenter Road and NC Highway 55. You can see this is Marsville Carpenter Road here, and this is Highway 55. Here is a closer view of the site, and if you can see here, here's historic Carpenter Crossroads, and the historic district starts about down here and goes up. And here is the railroad right here. Notice of this case and tonight's public hearing was mailed to property owners within 800 feet of the subject property and was posted on the town's website. The property was also posted with a sign. Cary's GIS maps indicate there are no streams impacting the site. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resource Facilities Master Plan indicates there are no issues related to this site, but there is a street side trail shown by the blue dashed line proposed for the west side of Highway 55 across the street from the site. According to the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, Highway 55 is designated as a major thoroughfare with ultimate build-out to 6 lanes. Triangle Transit Bus Route number 11 runs along Highway 55 to Research Triangle Park. And the future land use recommendations for this site are given by the Carpenter Community Plan. The plan currently designates the site for office and industrial or office and institutional uses. The applicants are requesting that the future land use recommendation for the site be changed to commercial. And staff has a few observations about the proposed change to the plan. The site's long, narrow shape may limit its potential uses, and its position next to the railroad tracks reduces its potential points of access. Changing to a commercial designation may open up a wider range of possible uses for this constrained site. But care should be taken to avoid impacts to the Carpenter National Register District, located to the east of the property. Cary's Land Development Ordinance outlines these 4 criteria that should be considered when evaluating requests to amend the comprehensive plan. Staff will continue to evaluate this request using these criteria. This concludes the presentation of the comprehensive plan amendment request. Deborah Grannon will now present the rezoning request for this site.
Thank you. As Ms. Redling pointed out, the property is currently zoned office, research and development conditional use. The proposed zoning is general commercial conditional use. Conditions proposed by the applicant would limit the height of the building to 2 stories and a maximum of 35 feet. There's a condition proposed that in the Type B buffer adjacent to the railroad, the plantings be enhanced so that the evergreen shrubs be placed closer together, 5 feet apart rather than 8 feet apart. That exterior parking lot lights be limited to a maximum height of 25 feet and shielded by the use of cutoff fixtures. That no individual building be larger than 20,000 square feet, and that if any use has a canopy, it shall be attached to the principal building and roof, and support columns shall match the principal building materials. There was a traffic impact analysis required as part of this request. One of the concerns that we heard from a number of neighbors are that on the traffic impact analysis, the applicant had to present the potential uses that could take place on this site. So they listed this as part of their traffic impact analysis request, and that included a tire store with 7,500 square feet, a gasoline station convenience store with up to 12 fueling positions and 3,200 square feet, and then 2,400 square feet of retail. This does not tell us that that's exactly what's going to be happening with this request, but for the purpose of the traffic study, this is what was presented to the traffic engineers. There were a number of off-site traffic mitigations that were identified as part of the traffic impact analysis. Those are listed in your staff report, and what it also states in the staff report is that at this time, no conditions have been offered by the applicant to address those recommendations. The applicant has recently submitted some conditions, but we did not get them in time to vet them or to include them in the report. So the applicant may speak to that tonight, but they have the understanding that this will require a second public hearing as this goes forward to the Planning and Zoning Board, because it was not included for the benefit of the public to see that. We did hear at the neighborhood meeting and from a few adjacent property owners that there was concern regarding the buffering along the eastern property line adjacent to the railroad track, and the applicant has offered a condition to keep that buffer enhanced. Concerns about traffic and concern about potential noise and site lighting impacts. And that was something that came up at the neighborhood meeting, was could the light poles be reduced? And because this would be a site plan, and that could be a condition listed on the site plan, and it's more strict than the ordinance, that is something that staff advised the applicant was appropriate, that they could offer a condition like that. This concludes staff's presentation, and following the public hearing, staff is available for your questions.
Thank you. At this time, I'd invite the applicant forward for their remarks.
Mayor and members of council, my name is Glenda Topp with Glenda S. Topp and Associates, and if I start losing my voice, I apologize, but I'll do as best I can. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Cook property owners in going over their proposal to both rezone their property and for a comprehensive plan amendment. Staff did an excellent job in both cases explaining the specifics of each, and what I'd like to do tonight is just hit some of the high points. The property is located between NC Highway 55 and CSX Railroad right-of-way. The current land use designation is industrial or office and institutional, and the zoning classification is ORD. And the zoning classification has been on the property for about 4.5 years. As staff has pointed out, the request is to change the zoning from ORD to commercial, general commercial conditional use, and also to change the land use to commercial. The 4.37 acre site is separated from the existing residential development by CSX Railroad. The main access for the property is from NC Highway 55. The property fronts NC Highway 55. Also, the orientation of the property is to NC 55 and not Carpenter Village. As we all know, NC 55 is a major north-south artery that takes people to and from the Research Triangle Park. The character and nature of the property is affected by the identification of the property to the highway and to the railroad. In August of 2010, 8 acres north of the proposed rezoning and comprehensive plan were rezoned from R40 and ORD to general commercial conditional use, and the plans for the property to the north will include some retail and office development as per the zoning conditions. The subject site has an additional 4 acres to the south that is currently zoned ORD conditional use, and that property will be developed with uses that are permitted under the ORD zoning district. We believe that the proposed 4.37 acres that's being considered for the comprehensive plan and rezoning, given the fact that it's separated from the area by the railroad and bounded by the of Highway 55, make it suitable for a commercial land use designation. Particularly the location of the railroad provides a pretty clear boundary from the non-residential portion of the land to the existing residential development. Given the amount of residential development in the area, we do feel that additional support services in close proximity to the residential area would be an asset to the community. We also feel that by putting some commercial in close proximity to the area could reduce travel time and take people off of Highway 55. To go over briefly the rezoning. Again, the property was originally rezoned in April of 2011. As staff pointed out, the existing zoning conditions that are in place right now still apply, and that includes the enhanced buffer along the eastern property line. And I also want to point out that there is existing vegetation that is also there adjacent to the railroad. We added 3 zoning conditions in addition to what's there already. We limited the maximum size of the building. We addressed canopy, if there was a use with a canopy. And from the neighborhood meeting, we also added a condition about lighting, because there was a concern about spillover and the concern that certain uses would have. So we reduced the required maximum height of the light poles, and also committed to the fact that they would be cut-off fixtures. As staff pointed out, for the staff report that you received, we had not had time to review the conditions, or actually the recommendations of the traffic report. So they were not included in the application, in the staff report that council received from staff. We have since sent the staff our proposed recommendations. We have agreed to all the recommendations of the traffic study. Staff is in the process of reviewing them. We completely understand that because of that and the potential of adding additional zoning conditions, that there will be a public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Board, but do want the council to know that we have agreed to all the conditions proposed in the traffic study as far as off-site improvements. So they have all been included in the proposed rezoning, and staff does have a copy, and they are reviewing that. And also, staff pointed out that for the traffic study, we provided staff with a worst-case scenario, understanding that it would be better to do that than undercount what possibly might be on the site. So the site plan that was submitted for the traffic study does not reflect what might be built on the property, and that again is what staff pointed out. Just in conclusion, given the location of the site along with the zoning conditions and the requirements of the LDO, we do believe that the site is suitable for commercial development. I want to point out that the same design standards that are in the LDO for ORD uses would also apply to any commercial uses. So those standards would not be any different regardless of what the use is. So we believe that the standards that are currently in the Cary ordinance would ensure a high-quality development if the property is developed with commercial uses. Again, we feel that the proposed zoning would benefit the area by having a limited amount of support commercial in the area. I do want to close with one point. Through this process, I have talked to several business owners who have been looking for property in Cary to have another business that they already have. And they're also looking to have these businesses in West Cary. What I've learned through this process is that the ability to find property, and in particular property that you can buy and not lease, is hard to find. Oftentimes in these larger shopping centers, you can locate in the larger shopping centers, but what they are requiring is that the property be leased and not bought. I know that isn't necessarily relevant to the case here, but I do want to point out that this proposed rezoning does provide this opportunity in a location that we believe is appropriate and does provide, both through conditions and the constraints of the site, the railroad location and the division between what's existing and the residential area. It would provide a a proper boundary and buffer to the residential areas. We did have the one neighborhood meeting, and I do want to point out to council, based on what we hear tonight, we do want to continue to meet with the property owners, and if there are additional concerns, we want to try to address them, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Tuck. Now it's time for the public hearing for a comprehensive plan amendment 15 CPA 05 and rezoning 15 REZ 13. And I would invite our first speaker forward.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Isaza. I am representing the subdivisions of the Estates of Old Carpenter, the Meadows of Old Carpenter, and Carpenter Village that are close to the property. We have a petition of over 50 names in the neighborhood objecting to the rezoning request. I have provided the clerk with the petition and copies of a more in-depth analysis of this presentation. Also, we have several property owners at this meeting tonight showing their opposition, and I would like them to stand. Thank you very much. Our main concerns about these changes to the comprehensive plan and zoning are safety of pedestrians near railroad tracks, impact on quality of life in the subdivision, including an increase in sound, lighting, odor pollution, environmental damage to soil and groundwater in our neighborhood, and traffic flow issues. In between the property and our subdivision is a railroad. Carpenter Elementary and Green Hope High School are close by, and a bus stop is very close to Carpenter Upchurch Road. We are worried that individuals from the area will take a shortcut across the road and railroad tracks in order to access the proposed stores. Individuals who cross the tracks are called trespassers by the railroad. Trespassers are the leading cause of railroad-related fatalities, even more than derailments and collisions combined. In 2014, there were 526 trespasser deaths and 419 trespasser injuries, not counting suicides, on rail property in the United States. Most of those killed are taking shortcuts in between residential areas and stores. Environmental pollution also results from these stores. Researchers report that drops of fuel spilled at gas stations don't evaporate as previously thought, and could cumulatively be causing long-term environmental damage to soil and groundwater in residential areas in close proximity to the stations. In addition, children living close to gasoline stations have a higher risk for leukemia and other cancers. If the underground storage tank would leak, a retention pond next to Carpenter Upchurch Road and many flood ponds exist throughout the neighborhood, and we worry about contamination. The possibility of a fire or explosion at the gasoline station located so close to our subdivision and contaminating the air is another alarming thought. The sound, light, and odor pollution caused by the development will have a negative impact on the neighborhood. Gasoline stations frequently have music on at the pumps, and large vehicles make loud warning noises when they back up. Large trucks will be delivering tires to the tire store. Repairs and tires being taken off and on will constantly generate electronic tool sounds. The gasoline store will have lights on throughout the night. Car washes with pumps, blowers, and dryers are also known to be loud. Garbage dumpsters will cause odor issues, and emptying them will cause additional noise. The traffic study for the development estimates over 6,500 vehicles stopping at the gasoline station alone each day, hundreds more for the other planned stores. Drivers turning in and out of the development will inevitably cause delays and accidents for commuters on Highway 55. Drivers making U-turns at Indian Wells Road will compound the problem. Add to this the additional traffic due to the connection of Morrisville Parkway to I-540, and the impact on individuals driving on Highway 55 could turn into a commuting disaster. Our subdivision is quite lovely, surrounded by Carpenter Elementary School, the Western Wake Library, parks, and the Carpenter Historical District. The proposed rezoning does not blend with the rest of the community. What's more, we currently have 4 gasoline stations, 3 with a car wash within a few minutes' drive. We have tire stores and mechanic shops a short distance away. We request that the council maintains the current zoning that encourages the property to be developed into doctor offices, other professional office spaces, or urgent care services. If the proposed development is approved, we would suggest that the gasoline station, convenience, tire, and repair stores be shifted to the Morrisville Carpenter Road side of the property that is already zoned general commercial, so that our neighborhood is not as affected. Furthermore, sidewalks in front of the stores, fences behind the development, no pass-through doors, and other methods could help mitigate some of these issues. We request that the Town Council provides our neighborhood with more time, perhaps 4 weeks, to discuss these issues more fully with the developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council. My name is Jay Libas. I've been in the town of Cary for about 30 years, and I own the gas station about a mile south of this proposed site. But you know what? Kathy just stole all my lines. That's kind of crazy.
I know
anyway, I mean, I want to add just a few things. I just want to remind the council, Mr. Mayor, about a few years back, a high school kid from Green Hope School Road was crossing the track, and we all remember what happened. Also, I want to remind everybody that my gas station has a signal traffic light. The Marathon has traffic lights, so it's very controlled in and out. This site has no traffic light whatsoever. And like Kathy said, it's about 6,500 vehicles. Could you imagine the inexperienced students that this site is sandwiched in between Panther Creek and Green Hope, trying to dodge all this traffic, 6,500 a day. And usually, the gas station is 80% of our business in traffic hours. So these students have to go in and dodge about a car every 15 seconds. And again, we'll remember what happened in Panther Creek last year with that student, unfortunate happened. But I think the most important is the same site, like Glenda just mentioned. 4 years ago, the same developer requested the rezoning to be under I. And according to 10-REZ 13, they proposed a bank, a mini storage, and the light commercial use. Well, at the time, I guess it served the developer that purpose, but I guess when the economy went down, and that's what I'm guessing, it will make a lot more money now to be a gas station and a tire store. So now we're requesting commercial zoning. Well, that's against all the master plan of that community. And I humbly ask the town council to reject this proposal for all the reasons Kathy mentioned. And again, I want to remind you all of something. I operate about 60% capacity at the present time. Marathon Station operates about 60% capacity. And there's another station coming in, Circle K, on Morrisville Fire Station Road, about 2 miles west to that site. And of course, you all know about the Sheets, just opened up about 3 miles north. And Handy Hugo about 3 miles south. So really, there is no need whatsoever for another gas station. The only reason is to satisfy a very well-skilled and highly connected developer in this area. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. You all have a good one.
Next speaker, please. Anyone else for this public hearing? Anyone at all? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. I want to make sure I understand this right, Ms. Grannon. The gas station tire store was an example used for traffic study, and is really, there's no indication that that's going to be there.
It could, but right.
Those
but
are possibilities.
As could a small retail
It could be a McDonald's.
Correct.
It could be something
Correct.
else. It could be anything you can think of.
I would add, though, that if it was going to be something else, they probably wouldn't be adding a condition that stated that if it had a canopy, it would be connected to a building.
And I totally agree with that. I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear that there's nothing right now making sure that that's going to be there. My comments before I pass it on to my colleagues, is I'm very concerned about the traffic as well, especially if you have a high use, especially between two high schools. That was the first thought that popped in my head. High school students making lefts out of there, or lefts into there in rush hour or lunchtime. That really concerns me. And so commercial use, I guess the point I'm getting at, I need a compelling reason other than we couldn't develop it in 4.5 years. I need a compelling reason to explain to me why office and institutional is not the best use for this site. So that's what I'm looking for. If you can convince me of that, okay, I might vote your way, but that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm not convinced of that right now. And that's, of course, there's a lot of information to come and a lot of advice to receive. So that's where I sit right now. This is your area. You know it very well. How close is it to your house?
Very close. It's very close to my house and Ed's house and Lori's house.
1.4 miles.
Yeah, it's very close.
Yeah,
you know, I think the statement you just made, Mayor, is just the right statement. It has to be a compelling reason for this use to be approved. Why is this better than what we have in place right now? And while the traffic study may not actually suggest what's going to go there, conditions would help us understand exactly what won't go there. And I think we have to stop and look at the full vision of what we wanted for this historic area and ask ourselves, what uses under the commercial district or the office institutional, however it goes, what uses are truly appropriate to complement a historic area? And when I think about what we thought of this rural village, which is what we called it, and we envisioned sympathetic buildings going around it and being a place that people would want to go and walk around and have a real sense of place, I don't think any of us envisioned a convenience store with a gas station. I don't think that was the rural village we were looking for, especially a 12-bay gas station, maybe one of those cute little ones like you have that's like rotting down in Morrisville, you know, that looks like it's from like 1950, you know, but not this huge thing. So I think what I would be looking for from an applicant here is some very, very tight conditions that would tell us what uses are actually appropriate to be adjacent to the rural village and adjacent to these neighborhoods. And while this is a weird sliver of land, it is very close to several neighborhoods. And their points about the railroad track is valid. Right now, it is an underutilized track, but we can't be just thinking about right now. We have to be thinking for the next 40, 50, 60 years, what is the future of that corridor, and how do we want to protect the students? And there's a lot of students right in here from just doing unwise things. I think at the very minimum, I would hope to have a condition that talks about a fence along there. The other question I have has to do with the uses and putting high traffic uses in the middle of the block, where you can only have a left in, which is what I understand you would have here in the middle of this block. That seems to be an inappropriate use of the land, and I don't think I could support that. If we're going to have something that has more traffic like a tire store, I'd prefer to see it near the major intersection, like with Morrisville Parkway, or I don't know if it'd be really appropriate up next to the rural village, but definitely not mid-block. I don't think it's appropriate for us to have high use in the middle of the block. Let me see what other thoughts. There were a lot of concerns regarding the environmental damage to the soil, and I think we have to contemplate that in light of our rural village and our neighborhoods as well. The environmental impact, the odor, and the light, all of these are extremely important topics that we need to discuss, and I would support giving the applicant much more time to work with the neighborhoods, because they're going to be the watchdog for us right here and make sure that what gets placed in here is going to be an appropriate and complementary use.
Other comments?
Well, I want to thank the two speakers for their comments tonight. I thought they were both excellent. In the printed copy that Mrs. Zaza gave us, I mean, footnotes and references, we don't often get that. So that's really, really neat. No, you said it very well, both Mayor and Jennifer. When I look at a rezoning in a plan change like this, of course, there's criteria that we have to evaluate it against. But putting all that aside in general, I look, when something is already zoned and there's a plan for something that's not R40, in other words, when there's something specific in place, And when something new comes in, I have to say to myself, well, maybe there was something wrong with the old zoning. Maybe we made a mistake, because that happens every once in a while, and it needs to be changed. Or with the new zoning, maybe it's something really fantastic, that we never considered in the old days. And this is just a wow thing. I don't see any of that with this whatsoever. So I have trouble with it myself. As far as the traffic, I need to see the staff's evaluation of the traffic study before I can really comment on that. But it needs to go a long way before I can, I think, get behind it.
I've got some heartburn with this one as well, for a number of the reasons stated. Trying to figure out myself what the compelling case is to rezone. I do have concerns regarding the proximity and impact to the character and charm of Carpenter Historic District. If it were to be a tire store, I don't really see that being a high traffic generator. If it were to be a convenience store, I absolutely see that being a high traffic generator. So I would want to better understand those concerns. I agree with Mr. Ierha. I don't know that this was, I actually think that what's currently zoned is probably the best use for the site. So there'd really have to be a compelling case to change that.
Ms. Bush?
I think, I'm not going to repeat anything anyone said. There's only two things that I would want to add is the only current access to this is from Highway 55. So with the trail being on the other side of the street, we've reduced the opportunity for people to have any pedestrian or safe access at all, because there's not going to be any light mid-block either. So any story about this being, like you said, a convenience store that people are going to walk or ride their bike to, they can't, because it's on Highway 55. So that would lead me to not be thrilled with this change as well. The other thing is that we have, every time I sit in this chair, I am amazed at the incredibly smart Cary citizens, wise beyond their years, I'm sure, who bring us this documentation, so well written. I think the people who write this, and people who are sitting in the audience, do their homework. And they did their homework when they bought their homes in Carpenter Village, and they knew what this was already zoned for. Right? So they already have an expectation that that's what's going to be built there, unless we have a compelling reason to change it. And I just don't see that yet. So I would want to honor what they moved in with the expectation that, it might be an office or institutional. Yeah, I don't mind living next to that, not a lot of traffic. But convenience store, I'm not sure I'd want to live next to that with the 24-hour lights, that kind of thing. No, and so I think they did a great job, and I'd like to commend all of them for being so professional in their manner and providing valuable input to us. I think that really matters to all of us.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. I know you sat through the previous request, but I'll repeat it just in case you didn't get it. Between now and the time it goes to our Planning and Zoning Board, if there are any changes, then we'll have another public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Board. Once they make their recommendation, it'll come back to council, and I'll ask the same question I asked earlier. Do we have any idea when it might get back to us?
This also has a CPA, so we have
So
to
it's
wait
at
for the
least
CPA.
January.
Right, exactly.
Okay, very good. Thank you all again for coming and expressing your ideas, and please continue to work with the applicant. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us or our staff. Thank you. We'll now move to our next public hearing. It's agenda item 5.8. It's a public hearing for the Crossroads Hotel with preliminary development plan rezoning request. We're going to hear from our staff, conduct a public hearing, and we will not take action tonight. We'll refer it to the Planning and Zoning Board, and Ms. Grannon will present this item.
Thank you. This is a request to rezone approximately 2.57 acres located at 555 Crossroads Boulevard. Subject property is shown here, highlighted in yellow. And an aerial view shows the subject property is currently vacant. The land use plan designation for the property is commercial. The property is located within the Crossroads Regional Mixed Use Center. And the existing zoning on the property is commercial. By being in the Crossroads Mixed Use Overlay District and the Mixed Use Center, the proposed amendment tonight is to rezone to MXD. And the reason for that is the use proposed is a hotel, but there's certain reductions to LDO standards that are proposed by the applicant. So therefore, the proposed zoning is MXD, and I'll go through those as part of this presentation. The proposed use is a 6-story hotel, a maximum of 70 feet in height and 108 guest rooms. When the applicant first came in for the pre-application conference, we realized that the height was probably going to exceed what the ordinance could allow because there's a residential use adjacent to the property. So that's why the MXD process. Preliminary development plan was submitted, and it shows the hotel highlighted here in gray, the proposed location of the parking areas, perimeter buffers, streetscape. As you're aware, with a preliminary development plan, the location and massing of the building and amenity features such as the swimming pool, buffer widths, all of these things function as zoning conditions. So this is a chance to see what you're going to get with a little bit higher level of certainty if the plan is approved. There are specific modifications to LDO standards that are shown on the plan and listed in the staff report. There is a thoroughfare corridor buffer. What's proposed is to keep that 100-foot buffer, but to allow grading in the outer 20 feet. No building, but to allow grading. The LDO standard is a 100-foot undisturbed buffer. The applicants also provided some justifications, which are included in the attachments to the report. This is consistent with some of the adjacent development, and they can speak to that further as this goes through the process. The proposed streetscape is a 20-foot Type C streetscape. The LDO standard is a 30-foot Type C streetscape. The proposed building height, 70 feet, 6 stories. The LDO allows for a 35-foot maximum within 100 feet of a residential zone district. So there's an opportunity that they could exceed that 35 feet, but they wouldn't have been able to get to 70 with just the general commercial zoning. Contiguous parking. The ordinance, if this were general commercial, would require a maximum of 14 contiguous parking spaces. There's 1 row of parking proposed on the site with a row of 16 contiguous spaces. There is a proposal to not have an additional setback for the parking areas from perimeter buffers. The ordinance for all other development outside a mixed-use district would require a 5-foot setback. Building setback from buffers is proposed to be 5 feet rather than the typical LDO standard, which is 10. And then the LDO calls for a 10-foot setback for parking areas from buildings, and the preliminary development plan shows a range of between 6 to 8 feet. There's also some retaining walls shown in perimeter buffers. Because this isn't a mixed-use overlay district, all of these items are eligible for your consideration, as is the opportunity to look at the potential champion tree removal. The applicant has done a tree study, a tree survey, and identified 4 possible champion trees on the site, 4 oak trees that would exceed the 32-inch diameter. They are waiting for an arborist report. It's possible that if the trees are not viable or if they're not healthy, it's possible that something could be allowed to be removed at a staff level. But until we have that information, the applicant wanted to make sure that they got this out before you at the initial town council public hearing. And this will require a second public hearing when it goes to the Planning and Zoning Board, so we'll have more information as that goes along. But it's important that the maximum reductions and modifications are presented up front because they can't get less restrictive as the case goes forward. Staff looked at the mix of uses in the Crossroads Regional Activity Center, and it shows us that there is a broad range of uses in the activity center, specifically getting to hotel and motel rooms. Right now we've got 567 existing. This plan proposes 108, which would give us 675 in this activity center. There's no issues with the proposed use. What's before you is really the massing of the site, the location, and the modifications that the applicant is requesting. Property owners within 800 feet of the subject property were notified by mail. There were no issues or phone calls or concerns raised by any adjacent property owners. According to our most current GIS maps, there are no stormwater impacts or stream buffers shown on the subject property. No issues with parks, recreation, and cultural resources. The Crossroads Boulevard is designated as a existing thoroughfare, and typically the 30-foot streetscape would be required. The adjacent car dealership has a 20-foot streetscape. The applicant has proposed the same thing with their preliminary development plan. This shows you the location of the existing C-Tran fixed route in the area, and there's a triangle transit route in fairly close proximity along Jones Franklin Road. This concludes staff's presentation. Following the applicant's comments and the public hearing, I'll be available for your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. At this time, I'd invite the applicant forward for their remarks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is David York. I'm with Smithmore Leatherwood, 434 Fayetteville Street, Raleigh, 27601. With me tonight is Mr. Shaunak Patel, who is the president of Parks Hospitality Group. They have this property under contract, and they are the proposed developers of the Homewood Suites hotel that's under consideration. Ms. Grannon did a great job of explaining basically the parameters of the request. If you look at the development plan that's on the screen, you'll see that the 20 feet of the 100-foot buffer along I-40, which is the northeast portion of the property, that 20 feet is in an existing utility easement, and the grading that is requested has been done also on our adjacent properties. And so it's just basically requesting like-kind treatment of the two neighbors to the east and west, or north and south. The other buffer requests are basic. They're minor in footage, but the intent here is to put the building in its height as far away from the residential, which are the apartments to the south and east, as possible. So they've placed it that way. There are retaining walls along the parking, along the southeastern boundary, retaining walls along the north, and along the road frontage. The retaining walls along the road frontage would not be seen. They're below grade of Crossroads. The area where there's 16 instead of 14 parking spaces is that row of parking immediately behind the building. Therefore, it's not visible from anyone other than basically the patrons of the hotel. Mr. Patel, his outfit owns 2 other hotels in this area, and they have a healthy occupancy rate. And so he knows firsthand the need for additional hotel in the Crossroads area. We feel like it's a difficult site to develop. It's been sitting out there since 2001. And with the auto dealership to the north, the apartments to the south, and across the road, you have some high-tech, well-known high-tech industries there. We feel like it's a great location, it's a great use, and we just need some assistance from the council to be good land stewards and make the most of this property. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any other comments from staff before we open the public hearing? Okay, very good. Now it's time for the public hearing for rezoning 15 REZ 08, and I would invite the first speaker forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council,
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Michael Crook. I'm an attorney with the law firm Parker Poe, Adams & Bernstein, and I'm here on behalf of my client, the Apartments at Crossroad LLC, to speak in opposition to the rezoning tonight. The Apartments at Crossroads LLC is the developer and the current owner of the adjacent apartment complex, which has about approximately 340 units, and it's called Legacy Crossroads. Excuse me. With me tonight is a representative from the Apartments at Crossroads LLC, Greg Nichols. Our opposition stems from principally the height of the proposed building on this site. We are not opposed to much else. It's again principally the height. The proposed structure, as you know, is a 6-story building that is 70 feet tall. Our concern comes with criterion E in the application. We believe that the height of the building will have a significant adverse impact on us as the adjacent property owner. We believe it'll have an impact on the property itself, Legacy Crossroads as a complex, on the residents of the apartment complex, and we also believe that it's inconsistent with the area and the planning principles guiding development. So first, the adverse impact on the apartments themselves. In the building, which in the diagram is the rectangular building in the bottom right corner, there are 16 occupied apartments, currently occupied apartments that overlook the site, and their view, should this project go forward, will be drastically different. We never expected the property to remain undeveloped, but we did expect that it would be developed with a certain type of structure and a certain type of construction at a certain height. And changing the zoning and allowing a 6-story building, it's certainly not consistent with those expectations and gives us and many of the residents some concern. And so we believe that will be an adverse impact on the people living in those apartments. Additionally, with the rezoning and the construction of that 6-story building, you have what in essence is a very tall building being built right in somebody's backyard, basically right off their balcony, right outside their window. We believe that this may cause retention issues with renters. There may be renters who no longer want to stay in those apartments or decide not to renew their lease because their view has changed so dramatically. And with those retention issues will come the costs to Legacy Crossroads related to the increased vacancy, related to the changeover between tenants, and increased advertising in the attempts to fill the space. And there also may be negative impact on rental rates for those apartments themselves. Excuse me. Finally, we oppose the rezoning because we do believe that it's inconsistent with the planning principles that are designated to promote an orderly transition and development within the town. This site, as you've heard, is between a car dealership, which is approximately a 2-story building, and the Legacy Apartments, which is a 3-story building. So it's inconsistent and incongruous to place a 6-story building smack dab in the middle of those two complexes. And so we believe that is inconsistent with the purposes of the LDO because it is not an appropriate height transition, and also the height is inconsistent with the neighboring properties. You have heard that there are other hotels in the area, and candidly, some of those hotels are 5 to 6-story properties. However, those hotels are significantly different from this in that none of them, most importantly, none of them border residential properties, and also each of them have significant buffer zones between the hotel itself and the adjacent property, and here that is not the case. So for those reasons, we oppose the rezoning. We think the building height is inconsistent and will have an adverse impact on our property. We appreciate you hearing our concerns. We do hope to work with the developer to...
Sorry, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please, for this public hearing. Anyone else for this public hearing? I'll close the public hearing, and I've got questions for staff, if they would come back. The slope between the apartments in this site, remind me what that is. Is it about level, or is it one?
I don't have that information.
The applicant
The
have that
applicant
information?
may have some more information on that.
I was actually there 2 days ago and looked at the site, and I can't remember for the life of me if the apartments, it seemed like it was level. Yeah, I was thinking it was about level. Okay. And then remind me what the height requirements allowed today are.
If it's within 100 feet of a residential zoned district, then it's a 35-foot building height.
So it's a
And then
double.
it, right, and then, but it could be increased 1 foot for each foot of additional setback. So it could go up another 10 or 20 feet above that. So it's not really double. I mean,
Okay.
you could have the
They
potential
could
of.
go about 55 feet probably
Approximately.
and still get it in on the
Right.
site. Okay. And I know you probably can't answer this question. So in addition to the 55 feet, is there a way to make the footprint larger to still get in as many rooms and still get all the parking requirements in and everything else? Or
You would see other impacts to
Yeah.
buffers. You would definitely, no, not to get 108 rooms on that site and not have greater impacts to the perimeter buffers.
Okay. Other
I guess I
councilmen?
have a quick question about the amount of parking spaces. Is this, the number of spots shown here, is that because that is required by our?
It's consistent with Chapter 7 of the LDO in terms of parking requirements.
Okay, all right. I just need to go out and see it and really get a sense for if it's that impactful or not. I mean, it's hard because anytime somebody's used to looking out over an undeveloped track and then it gets changed, of course, it's going to impact whether or not they want to keep leasing that spot because the view changes. So we'll just have to kind of take a look at
Yeah,
that.
this is just a visual for you of the adjacent apartment complex.
Do you have a view from the side of the development?
Let me just pull up I can get that as we go through the process. Got an aerial.
Yeah, that would be
think-
good. How much are we talking about impacting?
Here we go.
You know?
Let me see.
Look it up on Google Maps here.
Well, I guess my question is, if the apartment complex was, 3 stories?
Correct.
Is a 3-story hotel, isn't it hurting the view just as bad as a 6-story hotel? Because if it's the same height, you can't see through it, all you can see is over it, and at that point, you're looking at blue sky. Okay.
That was rhetorical.
That's what I was going to say. Is that?
So I'm struggling with that. I mean, I understand it might not fit in the character of what's around it, but from a view shed standpoint, if the building were as tall as the apartment, I just don't see how it impacts the view worse.
That's good points. I was actually, the technology company that I guess we're not supposed to talk about is Epic Games, and I was there a couple of days ago. And they're down at the bottom of the screen, that south, in a catty corner to this site. You have the theaters across the street from this site, and then you have the car dealership. Other than the height, I think this is a perfect use. I want to be respectful of the apartments, but you bring up excellent points, Don, that what's the difference between 3 and 6 stories as far as a view, if that's the biggest impact, or what are the other impacts? So as it goes through the process, I would love to hear those comments and questions answered by others. Other comments?
He said exactly what I was thinking.
With all these modifications, it's very hard to digest at this point. I think this is a perfect case for our Planning and Zoning Board to really take a look at a lot of these details. I mean, some of them make sense, the grading and the 20 feet, you know, about the thoroughfare buffer, that makes some kind of sense because it would be consistent along the street. 16 parking places to 14, I mean, it doesn't bother
And
me.
it's behind the building. Who's going to know?
But there's a lot of these other ones that I really
Sure.
need some help on. So I'm looking forward to some good information from planning and zoning.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, this will be forwarded to our Planning and Zoning Board for their recommendation. I assume it's going to be a couple of months away at least.
It will require a second public hearing as part of the MXD process. And if there's any changes, then we'll need some time to review the plans, but we'll get you updated as soon as possible.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We now move to our next public hearing. Item 5.9 is a public hearing for 917 Waldo Road Boulevard. And we're going to hear from staff, our applicant, and then conduct a public hearing. We will not take action on this item. We're going to refer it to our Planning and Zoning Board for their recommendation. Ms. Grannon of our staff will once again introduce this item.
Thank you. This property is located at 917 Waldo Road Boulevard on approximately 4.27 acres. Subject property is highlighted here in yellow on the south side of Waldo Road Boulevard. Aerial view shows the property is triangular in shape. There is an existing residential dwelling on the property. A little bit hard to see in the woods. Land use plan designation is office and institutional. The existing zoning is residential 40. The proposed zoning is office and institutional conditional use. The applicants have proposed to limit the use to animal service uses and to office, and to limit the building size to a maximum of 18,000 square feet. So with the animal service uses, that would include a veterinary hospital with an office with an indoor kennel, a kennel that's indoors only, and the opportunity for a kennel indoor and outdoor, but we've noted in the condition, or the applicant noted in the condition, an awareness that if there is an outdoor kennel, that would require a special use. Notification was sent to property owners within 800 feet of the subject property, and the property was posted. According to Cary's most current GIS maps, the site is not impacted by any stream buffers. Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Master Plan did not have any issues with the proposed rezoning. Waldo Road Boulevard is designated as a major road. A 30-foot streetscape would be required at the time of a development plan. And this concludes staff's presentation. Following the applicant's comments and the public hearing, I'll be available for your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Grannon. At this time, I would invite the applicant forward for their remarks.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is Don Mazzell with Withers and Ravenel. I'm representing the applicant, Mr. Randall Dunn. He's the contract purchaser of this property. He's in attendance tonight, as well are the existing property owners, the Baker family. Staff did a great job summarizing the request. Our request is to rezone to O&I conditional use, a use that is supported by the comprehensive plan. We did have our required neighborhood meeting. We did not have any attendees at that meeting other than those of us on the rezoning team, but are certainly here to hear any public comment that may come as a result of this hearing tonight. Just a few things to point out. We do have one adjacent property owner, exclusive of right-of-ways and railroad right-of-ways, and that's the existing daycare that's also zoned O&I, so a very compatible use. So we've certainly conditioned our uses to be O&I, animal services, veterinary hospitals, things of that nature, and also have limited the scope and size of that potential use to be compatible with the neighborhood. Also, something I'd like to point out, the daycare, when it was developed a couple of years ago, there was a joint driveway put in to be shared by this site in the future. So some planning has already gone into this site through staff and through the developer next door, so we look forward to utilizing that shared driveway and kind of building those plans set forth in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now's the time for the public hearing for rezoning request 15 RZ 12, and I would invite the first speaker forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Parimal Shah. We are the owners of the childcare adjacent to this subject property. We are not in opposition of the property, but our concern is since we have children from 6 weeks to potentially 12 years, would there be any, our concern is the health and safety of our children and staff, especially the young children, because their immune system is not as developed as adults. That's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Anyone else for this public hearing? I see no one. I'll close the public hearing. Last speaker brought up good comments. I would ask that the applicant work with that speaker and see what they can come up with.
Yeah, I just think it'd be nice if staff could give us some information about that too. I don't know anything about the threat that animals would have towards young children. So if that is a real threat, then I'd like to hear that, or if it's not, I'd like to hear that as well.
And I guess the outdoor runs, or whatever you would call it, at a veterinary hospital are in the site plan portion, so we won't know.
Right, that's correct. We can get some more information from the applicant and see if they have anything that they can give you some reassurance with as this goes forward.
But I assume all veterinary hospitals, whatever they are required to fence in.
Right, there are fencing requirements per the ordinance, that's correct.
Okay. Other comments?
I just found it funny, the compatible use, dogs, kids, same thing,
Yeah, I think that, and I'm glad the speaker came, because I know that where I take my dog, there are areas outside for the dogs to defecate, et cetera, and whatever kind of animal you bring. And so I can understand the adjoining daycare's concern, because, that's just something they want to make sure to protect themselves, and with allergies and that type of thing. It could be a health and safety issue.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised, and I guess we just have to worry about outdoor pets, but I would think there'd be some noise issues. Like with a daycare, you might want to have a quiet setting. There might be a conflict having
Dogs barking during
dogs
nap
barking
time?
during nap time, yeah. I don't know, but needs to be contemplated, I guess.
Yeah, more information the better, I guess is what I'm hearing. Other questions?
I was just going to say, given the location of the daycare, I mean, it's not exactly
There's the train
most
there.
quiet setting to start with.
Train's a little louder.
But I mean, also there may be even a neat opportunity for, kids to get to know animals and things like that. I mean, so nothing really about this gives me heartburn, but I do appreciate the speaker's comments about their concerns and otherwise supporting the project, and it's a fair concern.
Okay.
And I guess the shared driveway the applicant spoke about is a site plan
Correct.
related issue too, but if the plan is to have a shared driveway, not another curb
Another
cut
cut.
here, I think
Good
is
thing,
a
too.
wonderful thing, 'cause I drive by here all the time. It's a really dynamic intersection, Waldo Road and Davis Drive right now. We have new townhomes coming in, we have the existing townhomes on the other side, we have the schools, railroad tracks. There are a lot of road improvements going on right now as we speak, and traffic light timing things happening, which I think is all going to help. But it's just the curb cut going into that child care center, I mean, kills you when you're trying, if somebody doesn't stop and leave room there, it causes gridlock in the other direction. The child care center must be a wonderful place, by the way. I've never seen so many cars and so many people coming in and out of that. They must do a wonderful job with their business. But it is hectic, especially rush hour, people trying to go in and out of there. And with another cut going in and out of it would be hideous. So I'm hoping that shared driveway works.
Okay, very good. This will go to the Planning and Zoning Board for their recommendation, and we will see it, I guess, in a couple of months.
It depends on whether or not the applicant offers new conditions. If they do that, then it'll take a couple months, exactly.
Okay, very good, thank you. We now move to our next public hearing, item 510. It's round 33 of Land Development Ordinance Text Amendments Request. Staff is We'll hear the staff report and conduct a public hearing. Will not take action, and Planning and Zoning Board will once again see this item. Ms. Spearman.
Thank you. These are the round 33 amendments to the LDO. This shows a tentative schedule. The public hearing is this evening that will then move forward to the Planning and Zoning Board and could come back to you on December 10th at the earliest for a decision. There are 4 items in this round. I will briefly summarize each of these in my presentation. Background information and the actual proposed text is provided in your staff report. The first item includes 5 sub-items that are all related to legislative changes that have occurred recently. All of these are needed to comply with current regulation, and 3 of these are fairly significant. The first 3 where these would eliminate aesthetic controls that we currently have for single-family residential developments, and this would apply to 1 and 2 family dwellings that are subject to the residential building code. Also, the provisions related to protest petitions would be removed, and privilege license provisions. The second item for this evening, item B, concerns a quasi-judicial review of site plans, and you have discussed this at a couple of different work sessions. Currently, when considering waivers or modifications of development standards, council must take action on the entire, the full development plan, even if the plan could have been approved administratively in the absence of a modification. This amendment would allow council to take action on just the modification in such cases. Item C includes 3 changes related to the town center zoning district, and these pertain to the minimum lot size in 2 sub-districts within the town center. It also provides provisions related to outdoor display and sales of goods that currently aren't really covered in their current town center standards, and also clarifies some provisions related to the perimeter buffers. And finally, there are several technical, procedural, minor amendments that are included. There's a list of several of those that are included in your staff report that I'll be glad to go over any of those individual items if the council wishes. And that concludes staff's comments, and I'll be available for questions after the public hearing.
Very good. Now it's time for the public hearing for round 33 Land Development Ordinance Text Amendments, and I would invite our first speaker forward. Anyone for this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And I would like to talk about item A. I know that the legislature has required us to basically eliminate the guidelines we use to create this beautiful community. Sorry for the editorial. But I would like to know if we can somehow put in some wording that basically says, legislature requires us not to allow this, but we would prefer to have this. And if there's some way to do that legally without getting us into trouble, I would love to see that type of wording. We prefer to see aesthetic controls or something like that, but legislation has been passed that doesn't allow us to require those, something to that effect. I don't know how you would word that.
We can certainly look into that as it moves through the process and see if there's, in consulting with legal staff, to see if there's a way that we can capture that, that thought.
Because I do think there are developers in this area that would like to develop in a good way and do it the Cary way, as we talked about a little bit earlier. And I would like them to know that we still like the Cary way, even though we can't require it.
Can they offer it as a condition, though?
We could consider zoning conditions that developers could offer, but of course that would be voluntary conditions.
Yeah, we're not asking for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Other comments?
I just think it's irritating that the political party in charge of the General Assembly that is supposed to support the authority of local government is doing everything they can to take it away. Their assault on municipal authority continues.
Amen, brother.
Are we only talking about A?
So far.
Okay. Well, yeah, the only thing I want to say, I support all of, well, I don't like A, but I don't think there's much of a choice of what we have to do. But one of the items that concerned me, and I'm only going to mention it, and I know that Councilmember France and I brought it up, but the idea of reducing the time around quasi-judicials so that we don't have to review the entire site plan, I think is a great idea, because we've seen lots of times where we spend a whole hour, you know, listening to the breadth and depth of the entire thing when we're only talking about a champion tree. Right. But in the last couple of quasi-judicials, we actually had an opportunity to look at the entire site plan, and I think it all came out better because we did that. And I think my intention was certainly good, and I know yours are always good, but and although I brought this before council in tandem with Councilmember France, I just saw an example of where that might not work so well. And so if we can, when we go through these motions, I will actually, and I know it's weird that I brought it up with Councilmember France, but I just recently saw an example of where I was glad that we saw the whole site plan.
And I would just follow up that you could say the exact same thing about the way it currently is, where we've had a number of cases where we reviewed the entire site plan. There was not necessary. There were no issues that otherwise would have been approved administratively had it not been for a tree.
I totally agree with you. I'd just rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather spend an extra hour at the table and say, you know what, we wasted an hour, except missing that one time or 2 times or 10 times that we saw the whole site plans and made it better like we did that one time. So my time is worth it. I know everybody else's time is worth it, but that's why I'm going to vote against that one.
So I would have a follow-up between these two. Is it legally possible to pick and choose? Or we have to have one rule for all? You can't just say, hey, I'd like those, or anything over 2 item changes comes this way.
Yeah, I think we have to be consistent in how we treat.
I knew the answer to that question, but I just.
The problem we were trying to fix is we actually had applicants that proposed projects that really wanted to offer some conditions or a waiver or ask for a waiver of something that the surrounding community really wanted and this council wanted, but given that it would open up their entire site plan for scrutiny that otherwise would have been approved at a staff level, they didn't do it.
There's some big pros and cons both ways.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Exactly right.
So that'll be interesting going through the process.
I hate to see that too. It's one of those, where is he? 4951 things. It's just that last example, it turned out so much better. And I remember several other ones. The Pritchett Farm one was a good example on your side.
The other side, yeah.
Exactly. So I'd rather just be careful and have those opportunities. And I do think that any developer who makes that comment, and we've all met great developers in the town of Cary, but any developer said, well, I didn't want to bring it in front of you because I was afraid you're going to look at my whole site plan. Well, yeah, sorry. That's the law. That's the rules. Play by the rules.
So
I know I brought it to the table with you.
So any other comments?
Prerogative to change my mind.
Mr. Earhart?
Well, item C, the town center changes. It's funny, we each have a different one. There are 3 components to that. I get the outdoor display and sales, not an issue. But the other 2, I'm just curious, is it proper to ask what brought those on? I don't remember those 2 coming up before in any of our discussions.
The one related to the minimum lot size would provide more consistency between some of the various districts that we have now. And the minimum lot sizes, in some districts, you don't have a minimum lot size. Where you do, it's typically more on the order of 5,000 square feet. I don't know the history of why this is the case. It's been there for quite some time, but in the HDR mid-rise and the MXDR sub-districts, the minimum lot size that applies like to a single-family development there is actually 100,000 square feet. So there's a district that has a much larger minimum lot size, So we were just trying to, again, to facilitate a variety of development in some of the downtown districts where there's a lot of different uses that are allowed, to try to get that minimum lot size more consistent with other uses.
Okay, thank you.
With regard to the perimeter buffers, currently the ordinance currently states that there's a perimeter buffer required around the perimeter of the town center zoning district, so that within lots within the town center, there's not the intent to have the buffer requirements, where you have more compact development. This is somewhat of a technicality because there are a few, approximately 20, I think, parcels within the town center that, because they were the subject of a conditional use zoning at the time that the TCAP was adopted, technically they're not a town center district, although they're within the TCAP. So within those areas, it becomes confusing with whether or not the perimeter buffer applies. So we felt that the intent with that had been for the perimeter buffer around the perimeter of the town center district to really apply to the TCAP, so that it wouldn't result in intermittent buffers within certain parcels within the TCAP. So it's basically applying that standard to the boundary of the plan area for the TCAP rather than the town center zoning district.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, is the Planning and Zoning Board going to have a work session, or just add this?
Yes, they will. They'll have a work session and then take the matter up at a regular meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Did we have the public hearing? I didn't think we did.
Would you like to have one? No.
We didn't have the public.
We did. No one,
We
no
did?
one spoke.
It's getting
We
late.
did, nobody came? Yeah. Oh.
Gosh, I can't remember how we got
That's
into
funny.
discussion without a public hearing. Okay. We did have the public hearing. Thank you, Ms. Bierman. We now move to item 511.
How big things.
It's the consideration of lease for the cafe and concession space at 122 East Chatham. And Mr. Boyd will present this item, explain the action needed from council, and we could take a motion on this tonight. Mr. Boyd.
Good evening, council. This is the lease for the cafe and concession space inside the Cary Theater, 122 East Chatham Street. As you'll recall, we opened the renovated theater in February of 2014. As a part of that, we also had the commercial property built, the building built next door. Within that is where we have the concession area, but it is truly an extension and a part of the theater itself. The intent was always to have a private group operate and run that. Town staff has been operating that, doing a great job of that in the interim, and we have been, with some of our other properties, been seeking tenants to be able to lease properties through an RFP process. The terms of the lease are outlined in your staff report. The space is approximately 800 square feet. It is a non-exclusive space, and so by that I mean in order to get to the elevator, to the steps, to the restrooms, you have to come through the space, so you don't have your own four walls that you can close up, and there's a bit more exposure, and then obviously creating the synergy between the theater itself, and then also the patio space as well. The tenant is New Station LLC. They currently operate a coffee shop in the Raleigh market, and have been great to work with and understand the dynamics of the ability to work with our staff and the uniqueness of this of the opportunity. It's a 3-year term. The total for that is $24,000, and you can see the breakdown. It's an escalating rent beginning at $4,800 for the annual for the first year, and then $96 thereafter. It's about $6 a square foot for the first year, and then it escalates to $12 for the remaining 2 years within that. The average of that, just if you were curious, is $10 a square foot across the board. Tenant improvements within that, not to exceed $15,000. We have some minor electrical and plumbing components. The the tenant would be bringing in somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 worth of equipment with espresso machines and all the necessary equipment. They would also serve beer and wine within that. They would do a draft system that they would bring in as a part of that. The space is a nice space. It's kind of a sterile space a little bit. We want to make it a place that you can hang out. And so looking at paint and elements like chairs that you might want to sit in a little bit longer than what we have in there now. And so we've tried to be very minimal in what we would be doing within that and using existing funds to cover that. One point that I will bring up, we learned last week that the General Assembly passed House Bill 44. The change in it means that leases will require a 30-day rather than a 10-day published notice. We were operating with this underneath the 10-day. The law will take effect immediately upon the governor signing it. As of earlier today, he had not done so, but he could do it at any time, and we may not know that until tomorrow. Should he do that, before you all take action tonight, the item will come back to council after the additional published notice to satisfy this technical requirement of a lease. That concludes the presentation. Have the public hearing and answer any questions afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. At this time, we'll have a public hearing for the lease of the cafe and concession space at 122 East Chatham Street, and I would invite the first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? I see no one. Will close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions, comments, or motion.
Just so I'm clear, the $15,000 in improvements, the town will be paying that?
Correct.
I really like the proposal. I mean, we're basically getting $0 from it, what we have now, to getting $24,000 over 3 years. But what I am struggling with is the additional $15,000 in investment.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go, please.
While you're,
Sure.
We did some investment in some of the other space within those two buildings, like for the upfit for the Cary co-founders.
Correct. On the staff report calls out that there was approximately $300,000 that was committed to upfit of the second and the third floor. We were able to do that without using all those funds, and so a little over $12,000 is left, and we're using those funds and then applying just a little over $2,000 to make the $15,000. So the majority of those dollars are within the spirit of the upfit of within that space.
So they're already earmarked $12,000.
Correct.
For that space, for that building, which I think is a good use for that personally. Because really, in the net is like $2,400 or $2,600 left over that we would need to come up with from the general fund?
No, it's not any additional. There's the DT 1000 budget, so there's already funding that's there. It's just showing you where those funds are being pulled to be able to make the $15,000.
So if this was, I'm sorry, because so if this was another space, like where we do facade improvements for other businesses, because we have other programs for other downtown businesses, if this wasn't a new space that we needed to kind of update, it was, like you said, it was a sterile environment, we would do investment in that, in somebody else's building, right? To help.
Usually what we do when we make an investment to a space, we're doing things that are improving our facility that we keep. It's not an investment that's going specifically to a tenant that they keep any of those pieces. So overall, it improves the space of the building that we have within that. When we put certain equipment within that, there were different uses and things at the time, and now that we have a tenant who's going to come in, activate the space, they're actually going to be operating it 7 days a week. The hours or pieces that they'll work with a little bit on that because there's a lot of pieces within that, but beginning at 7 a.m., generally speaking, they'll obviously be open all of the times at the theater. The current programming is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday during those times. So there may be a period where they close for a period of time in the afternoon. They'll work on those pieces, but it's one of those that we'll sit down also and work with the theater staff to be able to look at all of the operational components. That's sort of a document that will go with the lease, but it didn't need to necessarily be in the lease because we have private events that are happening at the theater that are outside of those pieces. There's a lot of just nuance to the way that this group has to work together, and our theater works together with that, and it really frees them up to concentrate on the programming and not as much the management of this component of the space. Plus, it's activating, it's bringing life to the sidewalk, to the street, to inside this space on a more regular basis.
No, don't get me wrong. I think if you couldn't tell before, I am like so excited to have a place to get coffee in downtown now that Gather has, said that they will not be there much longer. And plus, Gather was only open from a certain period of time and never right when I actually needed the jolt. So one of the questions I got from someone was that the hours were somewhat not clear. So could I get coffee at 8 in the morning or only if there's a movie playing? Or
So when they would open in the morning, 7 a.m. is the start within that. And so it's really some of how do they transition from a staffing standpoint. I mean, if you think about it, you're operating your business from 7 in the morning, and if the Cary does a double feature, you could be going till midnight on certain times. So that's a really long time to be able to figure out how you manage your staffing costs and to do that, whereas if you didn't have that component, you could just say we're closing at 7 o'clock. Right. And that's part of the reason also why we've escalated the rent and done it in that to accommodate for this first year of being able to figure those pieces out and realizing that there's challenge and risk that both folks are taking and mitigating those.
Thank you.
So can I go back to the cost again? I want to make sure I understood correctly.
Correct.
There is money appropriated for the upfit or second and third floor to the tune of $12,000. We're proposing to use that. And in addition, there's money appropriated for downtown improvements, and we're using $2,500 of that. Is that correct?
Correct. The actual number, so there was a balance in the upfit for the second and third floor of $12,719. And then in the DT 1000 capital projects, we would transfer $2,281 to make a total of $15,000.
So we're not talking about taking money from the general fund.
Correct.
We're talking about taking money
that's
from
already
budgeted
been allocated.
pools of money.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, and I interrupted you. Is there anything else that?
Nah, I'm still not sure. I really love what's probably getting ready to happen, but I kind of look at it as they're already getting a great deal on the space. It's just the extra upfit cost that I'm just having heartburn with. So, but I really, really love the concept.
This has been, I've been working on finding a tenant for this space since I started almost 2 years ago, to be honest with you.
Please don't ruin my night.
No, and it has been a challenge. With this particular group, I look back and we started our conversation on January of this year. So it's been a 9-month process within that to be able to work within those pieces. So we were trying to be very cautious of where those funds were and to be considerate of those pieces. But it has been there's just a different space. I think it'll be an excellent use and it'll benefit the theater and benefit the public within all of those and excited for the tenant within that.
So I'll make a motion because I can't wait for coffee. So I'll make a motion that we move forward with staff's recommendation for the lease for the cafe and the concession space.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 5-1.
We're taking him out for a cup of coffee on day
He doesn't
one.
like coffee.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
4-1, sir.
Oh, 4-1.
Jack's not here?
Jack's not here.
Oh,
Gail's
there's
not here.
5 of us.
It's a
The numbers just
49.
keep
I know.
changing. 4-1. Thank you.
I wanted you to know.
Good thing Lori made it here.
That is the last of the public hearing. And some council members have asked that we take a very brief break, including me. I'm out of water. And so we're going to take a very short recess so I can refill my cup, and we'll be right back. We'll reconvene our council meeting and we'll move right into discussion items. Our first discussion item is Kensington East rezoning 15 REZ 1. Staff's going to give us a report. We're going to hear from our Planning and Zoning Board's chair, and then we will take action. This item requires a simple majority vote to approve. And Ms. Bierman will introduce this item.
Thank you. This is a request to rezone about 15 acres at 6125 and 6209 Holly Springs Road. This is a vicinity map. You can see Holly Springs Road to the east, Tryon Road to the short distance to the north. The existing zoning on the site is residential 40. It's also in the Swift Creek Mixed-Use Overlay District. Because it's in the overlay district, the zoning district that's requested is MXD, Mixed Use District. The preliminary development plan for this request provides for 53 townhomes on the west side of a stream buffer that goes through the property, and then on the east side of a the stream buffer, there would be a maximum of 7 detached dwellings on individual lots. This development would only occur upon removal of an existing telecommunications tower on the site, and I would point out that there is currently a lease on, according to the applicant, the lease on that telecommunication tower site goes until the year 2072, I believe. So there would need to be a significant change in the agreement with the lease and the developer in order for those single-family lots to be developed.
We even need cell towers in 2072.
This is a preliminary development plan. You can see the townhomes that are proposed on the east or the western portion of the property. The access does stub to the property line to the north. To the south, it also stubs, well, at the property line, but it continues to connect with the access within the Pritchett Farms subdivision that would provide access out to Holly Springs Road, and then further down to the south, another access point at Cary Parkway. And then you can see on the eastern portion of the property where there is a telecommunication tower. If that property is developed, it would be with single-family lots as shown.
Can I ask you a quick question? Why does the road width look so different on that?
Let's see.
Where they go into Pritchett. Looks like it goes from like 6 to 2 or something. Yeah, move your.
There.
Oh,
There you
this,
go, right
and-
there.
Okay, here, and this is actually a private road system through the townhomes. So there was a different minimum road section required, and then this is the standard public street as you get into the Pritchett tract. So within the townhomes, this would be private.
Uh-oh.
Is that correct?
The difference in the look is the private street is not showing right-of-way.
Oh, so the width
If you'll
is the
look
same?
within the narrower part after the right-of-way, you can see the road widths are about the same.
Okay.
So the physical asphalt parts are the same.
Oh.
It's a curb and gutter. It looks the same, feels the same. Will we have an issue someday when some residents in 2072 forget that they have private streets and they want to come into Cary?
Want it repaved?
Oh,
Want it
they won't get-
repaved?
They won't get a snowplow.
And they don't have an escrow?
Right.
Yeah. We have, for many years now, been placing information in restrictive covenants and deed restrictions and other things, so it's really apparent on those plans that it's a requirement. On all these townhomes, we've been doing that for years to help make sure it's completely clear to everyone moving into those communities for the future. There usually is slight differences, like you can see some of the parking that's adjacent to the roadway and instead of parallel parking, and so there's some things in townhomes that are a little different. The driveway spacing obviously is usually very close, and the mailboxes and things and other amenities are look and feel a little different typically in townhomes, but the pavement itself is meets our minimum standards for fire service and our services that we provide.
The property is in the southeast area plan. The plan designation is MDR, medium density residential, with the note that the maximum density is 6 units per acre. The proposed development has a maximum density of 4 units per acre. There are stream buffers shown on the site according to Cary's GIS maps. Field determination of these features will be made at the time of the site plan review. There is a stream buffer or a greenway shown through the property. With the development of the property to the south, there was the greenway required through the Pritchett development that would be continued through this development. This shows a transportation plan. You can see that Holly Springs Road is a major thoroughfare. There was one speaker at the public hearing. There were some concerns expressed with the potential for the street connection to Fordham Drive through the Pritchett tract, which were concerns that have been expressed previously in this area. Also, there were some questions and comments made by council members regarding the access points, traffic impacts, and clarification regarding the telecommunication tower. And at this time, I'll ask Mr. Swanstrom to present the Planning and Zoning Board recommendation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Swanstrom.
Council.
Your last council meeting.
This is my, if you don't count Tuesday night, this is my last official duty.
Wow.
I may designate Tuesday night to our new chairs. This is the last time you get to query me.
I believe it's 8 years of service.
It is.
Thank you so much for all
Thank
the
you.
service and coming to these late council meetings.
You know, I've come to feel like family. In a very warped kind of sense. I do hope nobody's watching on TV at this point.
I'm sure they are.
No one watches anyway.
It's probably going to come as no surprise on this one that the only heartburn we had at all was on the fact that this doesn't have an access to Holly Springs Road, and so we're going to have to come through the Pritchett property. And, you know, we already had a little bit of anxiety about the Pritchett property and the highway access and the traffic. That was the reason we didn't have a unanimous decision for you, or a unanimous recommendation for you. And then I did make a point of suggesting, as I did in the Pritchett property, that we have this funky little thing going on there where we have a narrowing, we have an expanding where parcels have been developed, and then we have a narrowing, and then we have expanding, and it looks as ridiculous as it always did. And so I confirmed that I believe funding to make the whole thing consistent is in a Campo request that we're putting forward. Just wanted to make sure that that gets some priority, because when you got the vast majority of it expanded, you know, widened, to have one little chunk just makes us look dumb.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Swanstrom. Other staff comments?
No additional comments.
Okay, questions, comments?
Had Jack talked to you about this before he left?
He did not. I can tell you my thoughts about this. You know, I live probably a half a mile from this, so I know it very well. My concern is how all of this is changing. So if you think of Crossroads and that being a regional activity center, now you're going to have non-residential and multifamily going in several different directions all the way to this point, and you're creating one giant regional activity center. And honestly, I just don't think that's the best use here. Now, with the proposal approved across the street, you got townhomes here. So now it's creeping almost all the way to Cary Parkway. So you think about Crossroads all the way to Cary Parkway. I don't know if that's a couple of miles or how much that is of one regional activity center, even though it's not technically that. That's how I view that. And And if you want to throw in Cary Town Center, which it kind of all blends together now, you know, you're creating what I've seen in other cities that are shameful. One that I was born in that goes like 10 miles of nothing but commercial and multifamily, and it just doesn't look good. And I think that's what we're creating here, so I can't support it. I'm not sure what Jack thought of it. I know Jack lives as a crow's fly, probably less than a mile from here as well. But those are my comments. I just don't think it's the best use of this property.
You see, this isn't my stomping ground, so I'm not on it all the time, but, you know, I'm trying to figure out, is it a good thing because it's kind of a transition from these low density up to the high density, or is it just too much of that kind of product? I can't really tell. So I kind of feel torn about it. You know, in honor of Jack, I just have to say I'm 5149.
Twice today.
A key component is what's in the middle from what's proposed tonight and the existing commercial. That shopping center, in my opinion, is dying, and so maybe this will help. Maybe these developments will help. But in my opinion, probably not, because catty corner to that shopping center, you have a new shopping center, and that's where all the activity is. So I don't think it will help this. I think it'll help the other one instead. Yeah.
I would add to that rising tides lift all boats. So if it helps one, it's probably in turn going to help the others. It complies with the land use plan, which actually specifically called for a lower density than typically the 8 units allowed per acre in MDR. They're limiting it to 4 units per acre. The lack of a connection onto Holly Springs Road isn't so much a concern to me, given I kind of like to limit the connections to Holly Springs Road, and it is connecting to the Pritchett development, but Pritchett development hasn't been built yet, so we're not going to run into that please don't connect to my neighborhood kind of thing that we oftentimes do when we cite residential next to residential, and they have to connect. We're getting a greenway connection with this that, you know, further promotes walkability and helps keep people off the road or away from the cars anyways. There is nothing to do with Fordham Drive here. We're still not connecting to Fordham Drive. I kind of like the proposal. I think it is a good transition to the mixed use directly north of it and the commercial north of that. I don't know that I'd want to put commercial next to low-density single-family to the south. I don't know that I'd want to put mixed use right next to the Pritchett tract. I think going from low density to medium density is a good transition point. And I hate to say only 53 townhomes, but from a traffic standpoint, that's a lot less traffic generator than, say, a commercial or retail or other type of office use would be. So, you know, for those reasons, I'd support it.
Yeah, I don't love this, and I thought originally this might be a good candidate for wait for great. But I couldn't think what great would be here. It seems like this is appropriate. It does meet our requirements, and it does have that protection to the area east of the, before I even knew it was 2072, at least. It does protect the area, you know, to the east next to Campbell Road. And I'm going to support it.
Let me ask a quick question. So the neighborhood immediately to the, I guess, south of this, I can't tell which way it's oriented, but that recreation area, does that include a swimming pool, or is it just like a playground?
Is that the barn they're going to redo?
Yeah, what is in that recreation area?
I don't have that information. I know that there was some work with saving the barn and having
That was going
some
to be a clubhouse or something.
clubhouse, but I don't know the specific facilities that are proposed there.
So this project, does it have,
Perhaps
I'm
Ms.
seeing it, does it have any kind of amenities in it, or is it?
The Pritchett property to the south had approximately 10,000 square feet of open space around the barn area.
Okay.
And it was preserved for like active recreation, but they didn't have a community center or clubhouse proposed.
Okay, so it's just kind of open play.
Oh,
Okay.
A place for, banquets or receptions or anything.
Or hanging out. Yeah, okay. I was just trying to figure out, all these homes, where are the kids recreating? Where are they playing?
Well, there's Colonial Baptist across the street. They have soccer fields. I assume they'll be going there. If they cross that Holly Springs Road, they got to be careful, though.
Okay.
Other side of Swift Creek is a county park. We have tennis courts and basketball courts. Those are the only things nearby.
Where's that?
That would be off the stream to your right, lower right. I can't think of anything else that's around there.
Okay.
Other comments, questions, a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 15 REZ01.
There's a motion
Second?
and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries 4-1.
Follow up with a motion to approve the consistency statement for 15 REZ01.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Spearman. We now move to no, we don't. Item 6.3 and 6.4, which was the Chapel Hill rezoning and consistency statement, was tabled to the October 22nd meeting. And so that takes us to item 6.5, which is the waiver of a waiting period subsequent to development plan application first property. And Ms. Grannon will introduce this item.
Thank you. This is the waiver request that was initiated by staff. Earlier this year, you approved a rezoning for property that was in both Chatham County and Wake County. The Chatham County portion went from R1 to R40. There was the watershed protection overlay district applied to the property. The zoning changed to R40. The applicant wanted to also have the conservation residential overlay district added to it. It was on their initial application. Staff didn't catch it. It went through the whole rezoning process. When they submitted their development plan, the planner said, if you want the density bonus, you need this overlay. So that's why this is coming back before you, so we can take it back through the process for the purpose of putting the conservation residential overlay district on the property. But no changes to the existing zoning conditions that were previously offered by the applicant.
And if they did change zoning conditions, we would see it in a rezoning.
It will still go, right. But there's no changes proposed to the R40, and there were conditions proposed for some open space and greenway trails and all of those things. None of that would change. This would be solely to put that overlay district on the property.
But does it still come back to us for?
Yes, it'll still go through a process. We'll try to move it along as expeditiously as possible if it's approved for the waiver to the one-year waiting period.
And since this was kind of a oops on our part, we're not charging them for it or anything.
Correct.
Right? Thank you.
Good.
And speaking of the waiver, it takes 3/4 of the council, which is 5 members, to approve this. And since there's only 5 of us here, it'll take all of us to approve the waiver, just so you know. Questions or comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion, second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to item 6.6. It was originally under consent. Mr. Urha asked that we place this on discussion to see consideration of design elements for the Carpenter Fire Station Road realignment and grade separation project. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Urha.
Now, I apologize for this long meeting, making it even longer by having pulled this.
Anything to keep men, right?
I know.
Oh, yeah. You get
Filibuster.
overtime for this?
It's a filibuster.
We have 6 more days. I think this will be quick. It's really, in my opinion, a technicality. The staff report was really well done explaining this rather complicated issue, I think, pretty clearly in the background in discussion sections of the staff report. But then when it gets down to the bottom part, the staff recommendation itself, and that's what we always say, we approve the staff recommendation. The staff recommendation itself, in my opinion, seemed to lack some specificity. It's very detailed along the way, and at the bottom it just says we approve the recommendation to install curb and gutter and expressway gutter along the newly relined Carpenter Fire Station Road. Well, if you read what's above, that's true for part of it, but part of it, I think the recommendation seems to be to leave alone the way it is. So the recommendation itself isn't specific enough. And I talked to Ms. Cove about it, who is kind enough to wait along all night long to come up to the podium. And you may have some alternative wording for us for that without changing your recommendation.
Correct. And thank you, and good evening, council. And I should apologize for that lack of clarity, and I do appreciate the opportunity to add more detail to it. So if I could, I just have 2 slides to show you, which I think pictures will help. Just for clarification, the project limits actually go from NC 55 on the west side all the way over to Lewis Stevens on the east side. But the focus of the staff report is this area here. Okay. So the next slide will actually show you the details of what we're proposing. So the staff report proposes that there's standard curb and gutter, which is recommended, shown in white, so it is on both the north and the south side, from NC 55 to approximately 300 feet east of the new railroad bridge. We're recommending a shoulder section, which is shown in green on the north side, and an expressway gutter, which is shown in yellow on the south side. So we've modified the staff recommendations. We've actually supplemented it for you. So what is shown in underlined is the new language that we've added to clarify those limits of the curb and gutter that we're proposing.
Beautiful.
To answer any questions for you.
What happens to the pedestrian who's going along here? There's curb and gutter, and then all of a sudden it goes away, and I presume, is there a sidewalk in that area?
There's provisions for a future sidewalk, and the bridge is being widened. The tunnel, the roadway tunnel under the railroad will provide adequate pedestrian accommodations.
So what happens when they get to this area that has the, what is it, what did you call that?
The expressway
gutter?
We'll be able to build a sidewalk off of that section as well.
So you're just doing the expressway gutter because it looks more sympathetic to the historic area?
The State Historic Preservation Office would prefer the expressway gutter over a standard curb and gutter.
What does expressway gutter look like?
I have a picture. So
Thank
you. Let me find which slide it is for you. So that's a picture of an expressway curb and gutter.
Okay. Why don't they like standard gutter and curb?
The State Historic Preservation Officer indicated that it feels too urban.
If there aren't any other comments, I would like to support the supplemented staff recommendation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion?
I just almost felt like Ed was channeling his inner Gail Adcock on the wordsmithing stuff there. That was good. I think it's kind of weird too, but I don't know. The historic preservation folks like it, so
So you like it?
I guess.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
And that concludes the agenda items. We do not have a closed session. So, Mr. Shiver, it's been a pleasure to serve with you, and thank you so much for all of your service. And if there's no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website at townofcary.org.